Chapter 236 Breakthrough to the 9 Layers of the Carefree Immortal Realm. New years just passed, and all things in heaven and earth began to revive. Guan walked through the air, admiring the ocean scenery along the way. Although the rumors about the world-destroying sea tide were spreading far and wide, the ocean still looked calm, without the slightest sign of disaster. He spread out his divine sense, searching for a suitable place to break through. He was already very far from the continent, and his limitless freedom step had already crossed 100 steps. With his current cultivation level, he could step across a distance dozens of times that of the continent, showing just how far the sea area was from the continent. The spiritual energy of the beings in the ocean was exceptionally dense, far exceeding that of the continent. Moreover, the cultivation levels of the oceanic demon beasts were very high. He even saw a whale at the loose immortal realm, as large as half the continent, capable of swallowing the territory of 3 dynasties in one gulp. Exaggeration to the extreme. Upon arriving here, the aura of human cultivators became rare. The occasional aura felt belonged entirely to immortal path realm cultivators. Without a cultivation level at the nirvana realm, one couldn't enter this sea area. Finally, Guan's gaze locked on a grand sea island. The island was teeming with life, even housing a power formed by hundreds of thousands of demons, with most of the demon soldiers training in the plains. The strongest demon had reached the 2nd layer of the loose immortal realm. The 9th layer heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Guan stealthily sneaked into the forest, meditating under a tree and activating the lifespan barrier. He did not immediately attempt to break through, but instead spread out his divine sense, observing the situation all around. Within the range of his divine sense, he felt the aura of wandering immortals. Fortunately, there were no heaven and earth flying immortals. Heaven and earth flying immortals were always few in numbers, not visible to mortal spirits. After all, they could leave this world. When Guan expanded the range of his divine sense to its maximum, he still did not see any heaven and earth flying immortals, finally putting his heart at ease. Though he couldn't see any heaven and earth flying immortals at sea, if he looked up at the sky, he could daily see the figures of heaven and earth flying immortals coming and going, like meteors streaking across the sky. Guan retracted his divine sense, and pulled up the attribute panel. Name: Guan. Lifespan: 128/168900764. Physique: Mystic Holy Body. Cultivation level: Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm 9th layer. With 10 million years of lifespan invested, could I break through to a higher realm? The 8th to 9th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm costs 30,000 years of lifespan. To reach a higher realm, failing once would mean waiting for more than 30,000 years before trying again. Failing 100 times would cost at least 3 million years of lifespan, which made him shudder just thinking about it. If he could use 10 million years of lifespan to break through to a higher realm, he would consider himself lucky. So he dared not upgrade his cultivation technique or physique, deciding to brute force his way in the realm instead. Guan took a deep breath and first invested 1 million years of lifespan to test the waters. You cultivated through energy absorption for 50,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, but you did not survive the ultimate reincarnation, heavenly tribulation, and failed. You cultivated through energy absorption for 100,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, but you did not survive the ultimate reincarnation, heavenly tribulation, and failed. Crossing the tribulation every 50,000 years? A bit harsh. Guan looked at the constant failure prompts before him, feeling somewhat panicked. 1 million years of lifespan resulted in just 20 failures. It would take 5 million years of lifespan to fail 100 times. The more Guan thought, the more anxious he became. His heart hardened, and he directly invested 5 million years of lifespan into cultivation. Fail. Fail. Guan couldn't even be bothered to look closely, just seeing that as long as the prompt didn't grow longer, it meant all failures. After all, 5 million years of lifespan ultimately went down the drain. Another 100 failures. This carefree primordial immortal realm was truly difficult to break through. No wonder he had never even heard of it in the real world. There were legends of heaven and earth flying immortals above the sea, but no tales of carefree primordial immortals. Guan pulled up the attribute panel again, and seeing there were still 10 million years of lifespan left, his heart settled a little. Another 5 million years of lifespan. He didn't believe he couldn't break through. Series of prompts crazily popped up, and within the lifespan barrier, spiritual energy never surged, and the leaves above his head swayed with the wind, producing rustling sounds that made Guan feel malice. It was as if the lifespan barrier was mocking him. The second 5 million years of lifespan all ended up in failures. He had already spent 11 million years of lifespan, failing 220 times to cross the tribulation. If he upgraded his cultivation technique and physique first, today would he be unable to break through? But even if he didn't break through, at least his strength would have increased like now. If he ultimately failed, he would have gained nothing. Guan couldn't accept such a failure, so he continued investing, this time putting in 500,000 years of lifespan. Constant failures appeared before him, but finally, a prompt suddenly lengthened, surprising him with joy. It worked. You cultivated through energy absorption for 350,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation. You survived the ultimate reincarnation heavenly tribulation successfully, and your cultivation level advanced to the first layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 410,000 years, advancing your cultivation level to the second layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 470,000 years, advancing your cultivation level to the third layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 500,000 years, your cultivation level increased. 60,000 years for a small realm advancement. This carefree primordial immortal was truly fierce. Guan felt sentimental. The lifespan barrier finally began to function. An earth spirit energy surged into his body. He didn't remain idle, continuously investing lifespan into his cultivation. His cultivation's small realms could only be at the 9th layer. He wasn't used to presenting himself as an observer below the 8th layer, lacking a sense of security. Eventually, he spent another 490,000 years of lifespan to attain the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. The 8th layer to the 9th layer shockingly cost him 150,000 years of lifespan. This breakthrough took nearly 12 million years of lifespan to reach the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. An utterly terrifying figure. Boom. The earth rumbled, and spiritual energy soared like a tide, covering the grass within the barrier. All spirit energy on the entire island and the surrounding sea area abruptly plummeted, startling all beings into panic and chaos. The influence of the lifespan barrier continued to expand. The spiritual energy required from the 9th layer heaven and earth flying immortal realm to the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm was immense. After a few breaths, ocean demons erupted from beneath the sea. Heaven and earth were in an uproar. The island fell into a clamor as the demons roared, deafeningly. Guan saw shape-shifting demons flying over the forest, thinking an enemy was attacking the island. Guan closed his eyes and began to feel the changes within himself. He wanted to see what the carefree primordial immortal had that made it so hard to break through. After 30 minutes, a flood of profound insights exploded in Guan's mind like the universe's Big Bang. Infinite information pouring into his consciousness. Heaven and earth rules. Heaven and earth flying immortal required cultivating the path of 5 elements to perceive higher realms. With the 5 elements' perfection, one could perceive the heaven and earth rules. All things in the world were composed of the unseen and untouchable power of rules. The 5 elements were the foundation, as stated in the Tao Te Ching, that Tao produced 1, 1 produced 2, 2 produced 3, and 3 produced all things. The carefree primordial immortal was the realm of perceiving the rules of heaven and earth. Reaching this realm meant being completely unbounded by the constraints of heaven and earth, completely carefree. The primordial spirit underwent a baptism by the rules of heaven and earth, reaching transcendence. His golden core and mystic heart were transforming into higher existences. The golden core was accumulating the power of heaven and earth rules to form his Tao. What was Tao? Tao encompassed everything: cultivation techniques, spells, divine skills, etc. Everything about his existence was his Tao. The golden core generated the Tao, transforming into the primordial elixir. No wonder the nascent soul and golden core independently existed. The nascent soul transformed into the primordial spirit, and the golden core transformed into the Tao. Guan guessed they would merge at some future realm, making him the incarnation of the Tao. Time flew by quickly. As Earth's spiritual energy sank faster, the clouds above churned violently as if ready to collapse with the spiritual energy. The island's demons were terrified, assembling in formations and hiding within the island, not daring to come out. Fortunately, no demon intruded into the lifespan barrier. After an hour, Guan successfully transformed into a carefree primordial immortal, breaking free from heaven and earth rules, truly carefree. Wherever the Tao existed, the mind could reach. What was the existence of Tao? Places and beings inheriting Guan's Taoist sorcery were where the Tao existed, enabling him to easily escape and control their causes and effects. Guan realized the way of cause and effect was a unique Taoist sorcery. As his realm increased, his mastery over cause and effect grew deeper. The so-called cause and effect were the invisible forces produced by the interaction of all beings. There were cause and effect, and gathering endless cause and effect together was the world. After a major realm breakthrough, Guan's cultivation level began to surge. The primordial elixir had already deduced his Tao, and all the cause and effect related to him would appear in his Tao. He was moving towards the realm of omniscience. First, understand all his cause and effect. At higher realms, who knows if he could comprehend all cause and effect? After 3 hours, night fell, and Guan finally reached the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. His divine sense range was expanding continuously. Perceiving the lifespan barrier's extraction range of Earth spirit energy significantly exceeded his 9th layer heaven and earth flying immortal realm range. Due to this immense scope, no one, not even a demon, could detect the focal point of spiritual energy's descent. When the Earth's spiritual energy ceased flowing into Guan, he slowly stood up and opened his eyes. He instantly transformed into an aurora and vanished from the spot. Then he arrived in front of a mansion. As it was late at night, the streets were empty, but the mansion within was brightly lit. He looked up, and the signboard bore 2 words: G Mansion. Through the Tao of his primordial elixir, he arrived at the G Mansion where his cause and effect resided. Yes, it was arriving, not teleporting. Arriving wouldn't produce any signs between the 2 places, breaking free from the rules of heaven and earth. Arriving at another place from a higher dimension. He was essentially traveling within his Tao. This feeling was truly marvelous. Guan walked towards the G Mansion, the place of his birth and childhood. Taking a step past the main gate, he walked within the courtyard. An old servant carrying a lantern walked towards him, passing through his body. This, too, was the mystical nature of the carefree primordial immortal. Mortal spirits couldn't see, mortal spirits couldn't touch. No wonder there were no legends of the carefree primordial immortal. For the first time, Guan felt invincible. Chapter 237. Soul of the G family ancestor. Late at night, the G Mansion was dimly lit. Guan walked leisurely through the corridors, and childhood memories kept surfacing. As the starting point of Guan's life, he had deep feelings for the G Mansion. From childhood to adulthood, he lived quite well in the G Mansion. Apart from the incident when he smashed the flower bed, and was nearly punished by having his hand cut off, he had a good life without being bullied by other G family members. Although there were occasional conflicts among the house servants, it never escalated to a point of deadly enmity. Having not returned for 100 years, the G Mansion felt both familiar and unfamiliar to him. What was familiar were the furnishings and environment, which had not changed much. What was unfamiliar were the people. There were many branches of the G family, and the G Mansion he was in was just one among many, with branches spread across 3 generations. Before the demon catastrophe, the G family had hidden in the 7 Stars spirit realm. Only the main family and the high-ranking and talented disciples went into hiding. After the catastrophe, those who had hidden in the seven-star spirit realm returned to their respective homelands to continue developing the family. Guan even saw branches of the Ji family on the ocean, though they stayed close to the mainland, not daring to venture far because the demons in the ocean were powerful, and high-level demons could be encountered frequently. The person with the highest cultivation level in this Ji mansion was in the unification realm. Back then, those in the unification realm were beings he had to look up to. Suddenly, Guan detected a faint soul aura, piquing his interest. He immediately walked toward that direction. Along the way, figures passed by him. He even walked through the courtyard walls as if everything there was illusory to him. Guan saw a familiar face, the court guardian who almost cut off his hand back then. 100 years had passed. The guardian now had gray hair and looked aged. He no longer appeared fierce but rather kind and gentle. Guan merely glanced at him, having no thought of seeking revenge. Indeed, it was his fault for smashing the flower bed back then. The guardian was just doing his duty, and now their realms were worlds apart. Why should he hold a grudge? The Ji mansion was large, and Guan walked leisurely as if on a casual stroll. An hour later, he arrived at the place where the mysterious soul resided, which turned out to be the ancestral hall of the Ji mansion. He passed through the door and saw rows of spirit tablets, all of Ji family's ancestors, and the soul was hidden within the main spirit tablet. Guan approached the spirit tablet, noting the name on it. Jijan. A soul was hidden deep inside the spirit tablet, an old man, lying on his side, seemingly napping. He was hidden in the power of cause and effect, not in an ordinary exotic space, where beings couldn't detect his presence with divine sense. Jijan turned over as if dreaming, unaware that someone was spying on him. Guan cast lifespan detection on him, but the data came back as 0, not even displaying his realm. In the unseen, Jijan had countless connections with the entire Ji mansion, threads of cause and effect among them, one involving Ji Xiaoyu. Jijan was an ancestral bloodline of Ji Xiaoyu. Following Ji Xiaoyu's line of cause and effect, Guan saw a segment that was very blurry, even to his eyes. Ji Xiaoyu's cause and effect seemed off, giving Guan an eerie feeling as if Ji Xiaoyu had suddenly become someone else at a certain stage. Looking closely, the change seemed to occur when Ji Xiaoyu was 10 years old. He did not dwell on it, for he wasn't here to investigate Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu possessed the primordial Taoist talisman, so having special causes and effects was not surprising. Guan did not stay long, and quickly turned away from the ancestral hall. Deep within the spirit tablet, Jijan suddenly turned over and sat up. He scratched his head muttering, "Strange, just now I felt a sense of unease. Could it be that the Ji family is facing another calamity? Blame it on that seven-star spirit realm. Sigh, the current generation truly lacks ambition, always relying on others. I can only watch and hope that she can restore the Ji family to its former glory." Jijan lay down again and continued to sleep. For him, time had no meaning. He was accustomed to indulging in dreams, enjoying the reincarnations he created for himself. At dawn, the sunlight swept from the horizon. Qi stood on the beach, frowning as he gazed into the distance. His face was pale. During the battle in Divine Exotic City, he had been stung by the immortal swallowing scorpion from the Seven Stars spirit realm, and the scorpion venom had not been fully purged from his body. A figure emerged from the forest behind him. It was Qi Jiuxiao, the genius from the Star Sea congregations. "Master, and how that kid was really outrageous. I passed on my divine skills to him, and he mastered them last night. It's simply unnatural." Qi Jiuxiao cursed as he approached, resentful of Enhao's extraordinary talent. He had indeed been defeated, acknowledging that Enhao's talent and comprehension surpassed his own. Qi did not respond, still staring into the distance. "Master, what are you looking at?" Qi Jiuxiao couldn't help but ask when he saw his master lost in thought. Qi snapped back to reality and said, "The spiritual energy over the sea seems unusual. I suspect there is an anomaly somewhere, possibly related to the recently rumored world-destroying sea tide." Qi Jiuxiao frowned and said, "What world-destroying sea tide? It must be the seven-star spirit realm causing trouble." That huge rift appeared too coincidentally. Chi-Bei did not reply, thinking those comments were pointless. At that moment, a seven-colored radiance descended from the sky, landing beside them, instantly drawing their attention. They turned to see a figure within the radiance. It was a mysterious figure enveloped in dark purple demonic qi. Qi Jiuxiu's eyes widened. Sword Venerable Fu Dao? Chi-Bei could not forget the scene where Guan easily killed two wandering immortals, and he quickly bowed. No matter what, the other had saved his life, so he should pay his respects. Thank you for looking after my disciple all these years, Guan said. Chi-Bei was about to speak when Guan suddenly appeared in front of him, reaching out with his right hand. Two fingers pointed at Chi-Bei's chest, rendering him immobile instantly. Master! Qi Jiuxiao was startled, instinctively wanting to rush forward. Stay put! Chi-Bei shouted, even using his mana to restrain Qi Jiuxiao. The senior is detoxifying me. Chi-Bei took a deep breath and said slowly, his eyes filled with complex emotions. As Guan's mana entered his body, he suddenly felt insignificantly small. In the face of this power, the wandering immortal realm was so weak, vulnerable. How powerful were the heaven and earth flying immortals? Although Chi-Bei was a wandering immortal, he lacked the confidence to reach the heaven and earth flying immortal realm in the future. It seemed only one great realm apart, but he couldn't imagine how to break through to the heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Qi Jiuxiao was overjoyed at his master's words. He had been constantly worried about his master's poisoning, feeling helpless and anxious. He never expected Hao's master could purge the immortal swallowing scorpion's poison. After a few breaths, Guan withdrew his hand and said, I'd like to spend some time alone with my disciple. Then he turned and walked into the forest. Qi Jiuxiao quickly bowed, not daring to obstruct him. Chi-Bei felt the poison in his body dissipating, and with it, the weight on his heart. He looked at Guan with awe. Such a terrifying poison. Yet he could easily expel it. Little did he know, Guan could have eradicated the poison instantly but deliberately prolonged the process. Even so, it was beyond Chi-Bei's reach. Qi Jiuxiao quickly came to Chi-Bei's side, concerned about his condition. Deep within the island, hundreds of miles away in the mountains, Hao sat cross-legged on a mountainside cultivating. Divinity Transformation Realm, 4th layer. Still stunning. Guan stood behind Hao, reflecting on his current cultivation level. Hao was now only 94 years old, and a 94-year-old cultivator in the Divinity Transformation Realm, 4th layer, would surpass Li Xiandao in no time. Hao was still the fastest cultivator Guan had ever known. At 128 years old, having reached the 9th layer of the carefree immortal realm, Guan said, based on your cultivation level, you haven't been slacking. Hao abruptly opened his eyes, turned around, showing a look of surprise and joy. He quickly stood up, excitedly asking, Master, what brings you here? Guan replied, I came to check on you. Hearing this, Hao became even happier, rushing to Guan, asking various questions, losing his usual composure. In front of Guan, he still seemed like that lively, mischievous boy. The master and disciple talked for a long time before Guan got to the point. How is your practice of the Yangwood primordial skill progressing? Hao's spirit root qualification was strong, not because of a single root attribute, but because each of his spirit roots was of heavenly spirit root level. In other words, Hao could cultivate the 5 elements skill. Practicing the heaven and earth primordial skill was not considered abandoning his current practice because the 2 cultivation techniques were from the same origin. Very well, I have already cultivated the yang wood. This spiritual wood can absorb spiritual power, and it's quite domineering. Hao eagerly described his accomplishments, not wanting to disappoint his master. After he finished, Guan said, I will teach you a higher-level cultivation technique. The Yangwood primordial skill is just one foundation of this technique. Upon hearing this, Hao's eyes lit up, and he quickly nodded. This technique cannot be disclosed, as it may attract calamities. Also, your tribulation crossing will be more difficult than cultivators of the same realm, so be mentally prepared. Guan reminded him, Hao suddenly realized. Heavenly tribulation is related to the cultivation technique? No wonder my tribulations always astonish others. Guan continued saying, Recently, I have taken on another disciple. Your junior apprentice's qualification is also outstanding, not inferior to yours. As the senior apprentice, you must set an example and not be surpassed by him. A junior apprentice? And Hao frowned, feeling a sudden tension. If someone else had said this, he would have dismissed it, believing no one could match his qualifications. But hearing it from his master, he didn't doubt it. There was someone with qualifications comparable to his, possibly younger, giving him a sense of urgency. Master, what is my junior apprentice's name? And Hao cautiously asked. One day, you will meet and get to know each other because you are cultivating the same technique. Guan answered. Could it be Liya? And Hao thought of the Taitsong divine shocking sword that Liya had used. Soon he dismissed this guess. Liya was older than him and wasn't considered a genius, at least in his eyes, quite ordinary. Chapter 238. 7 Days in Outer Heaven. Vast expanse of heaven and earth. After passing down the heaven and earth primordial skill to An Hao, Guan didn't linger longer and quickly left the island. In the sky, he saw the distant ocean stirring up massive waves, originating from the place of his breakthrough. The spiritual energy he consumed during his breakthrough was enormous, causing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to sink, inevitably shaking the ocean. Fortunately, that sea region did not have any human-occupied mainland. The demon creatures surviving there all had cultivation levels, so even if the island was flooded, they wouldn't die. Besides, the waves just swept across rather than raising the sea level. Guan just glanced at it and did not give it much thought, avoiding any burden on himself. He harbored good intentions and avoided harming innocent beings as much as possible. Still, if his cultivation inadvertently affected innocent lives, he couldn't help it, and he would not stop his progress. Upon returning to the Supreme Sect, Guan first wandered around the Mystic Valley. Lu Jiujia and the servant disciples were already accustomed to days without Guan. Although Guan often visited the Mystic Valley, everyone knew that his focus was on the Inner Sex Medicine Valley, which they understood. Without Guan, they felt no pressure. Half an hour later, Guan arrived at the Third Medicine Valley. Compared to the Mystic Valley, the Third Medicine Valley was much livelier. Guan stepped down from the transmission array platform, looked around, and saw the past of every servant disciple before his eyes. A mortal spirit's century-long life was just a fleeting moment for him. Guan looked at an Xian, peering into her past, and sure enough, he saw his own figure. He could see the past of mortal spirits. And so could other carefree primordial immortals. This made him more grateful for his choice. Luckily, he stayed in the Supreme Sect. If he had roamed the world, the increasing causality would have attracted the attention of hidden carefree primordial immortals. If such transcendental beings found his growth speed unreasonable, it would have been troublesome. Guan walked to the wooden fence in the garden area, looked up, and found his vision far beyond before. Feeling more and more that the great heavenly spirit land was vast. The name Great Heaven and Earth was indeed well-deserved. This continent was already vastly broader than Earth in his past life, yet it was like dust in the entire great heaven and earth. As his field of vision expanded, he saw more heaven and earth flying immortals coming and going. He could even see the scenes beyond heaven, a splendid star sea with breathtaking spectacles, with starry lights resembling celestial rivers, filled with countless stars like great waves sifting through sand, and gigantic nebulas like cosmic trees guiding all beings. Guan's gaze was drawn to the sun illuminating heaven and earth. Outside the great heaven and earth, there were not just one, but 7 enormous suns, orbiting around the great heaven and earth under some mysterious rule, allowing every place within it to maintain a regular pattern of 4 seasons and day-night cycles. With his eyesight, he saw that each of the 7 suns contained a mysterious being. They were colossal, with various forms. Some were birds, others beasts, and even human-like figures, instilling awe. The sun's surface had a power barrier that prevented Guan from seeing their true forms, which also made lifespan detection impossible. Guan merely glanced before looking away, avoiding disturbing the beings within the suns. Carefree primordial immortals could easily cross the sky to the outer universe, But he didn't want to go for now. Staying at the Supreme Sect was good enough. He had no urgent enemies, so exploring was unnecessary. He could now roam the world freely. With the mystique of a carefree primordial immortal, if he wished, no life below a carefree primordial immortal would see or touch him. Guan looked towards the distant heaven and earth, his vision extending rapidly for countless miles. A vast expanse of ocean swept past his eyes. He saw more prosperous continents and scenes of life fighting, including wars, battles between immortal great cultivators, and giant spirit beasts revered as divine beasts roaming the world, with countless mortals kneeling in worship. There were also many places his vision could not penetrate, indicating that they might be home to carefree primordial immortals. Such places were either far from the mortal world, or within extremely prosperous human or demon lands. Guan even saw a continent full of immortal beings, with the lowest cultivation being the Nirvana realm, which amazed him. Fortunately, that continent was incredibly distant. Even Nirvana realm cultivators would find it difficult to cross because the journey was fraught with dangers. He had just seen a loose immortal swallowed by a mysterious giant sea demon, an event that happened so suddenly. The loose immortal was just passing by at an immense speed beyond mortal sight, yet was still devoured, perishing instantly. Guan felt as if he was exploring. This kind of peering brought him novelty. The whole world seemed to reveal its true face before him, making him unable to stop. He did not know how much time had passed. Yu Yingying came beside him and asked, "What are you thinking about? Why have you been staring blankly for so long?" Guan withdrew his gaze, looked at her, and smiled gently. "I am thinking about how vast the star sea congregations are, and how broad the world outside is." Yu Yingying laughed and replied, "If you want to go to the ocean, I can arrange it for you. As for how large the star sea congregations are, even I, who was born there, am unsure. The sea area occupied by the star sea congregations is thousands of times larger than this continent, and that's just my estimation." Guan nodded slightly. The territory of the star sea congregations indeed exceeded the continent's size by thousands of times, but it did not seem vast to him because he could see even further. He wondered if there were carefree primordial immortals in the star sea congregations. Guan thought that even if there were, they would not be in the mortal world. Though Guan could see the other side of the mortal world, he did not find the existence of carefree primordial immortals. It was just hard to see them, but he could not be sure they did not exist. Perhaps carefree primordial immortals could not spy on each other. Therefore, this realm was called carefree. Speaking of which, the internal assessment of the star sea congregations is about to start. I wonder if Xian Tianyi will make a name for himself this time, Yu Yingying said, her face full of reminiscence. When Guan heard this, he couldn't help but ask, "Is there a threshold for the internal assessment?" Li Ye, Zhang Buku, and Hao had already joined the star sea congregations. Guan looked forward to seeing them make a name for themselves. All three had received his inheritance. If they could thrive in the star sea congregations, he would naturally be pleased. No, anyone under 1,000 years old can participate. By the way, Li Ye from the Supreme Sect is expected to take part. That divine exotic city is a fake immortal treasure, so many prodigies will want to compete with him. Yu Yingying smiled wickedly, with an expression of anticipating someone to be embarrassed. The two of them continued chatting, the topic revolving around the star sea congregations. Although Yu Yingying did not want to return, she spoke with pride about the star sea congregations, often belittling the Supreme Sect. This made Guan look forward to the future of the Supreme Sect. The future was long, and there was no rush. Who could tell if the Supreme Sect would be more powerful, or the star sea congregations more prominent in 10,000 years? Although Guan had already reached the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal stage, his life had just started at 128 years old. Not to mention the future, he was very much looking forward to tomorrow. After chatting with Yu Yingying for a while, Guan moved to another place to continue observing the great heavenly spirit land. In the extremely distant west, he saw a majestic mountain located in a desert, surrounded by sky-covering sandstorms, with a golden, radiant giant palace atop the peak, constantly receiving and sending off monks. That palace was also a place his vision could not penetrate. This indicated that the palace likely had a carefree primordial immortal. The world was indeed vast and populated with numerous great powers. Not every heaven and earth flying immortal or higher existence would leave the mortal world. In the days that followed, whenever Guan had time, he observed the heaven and earth. What made him most wary was the north. There lay a vast continent, the largest he had ever seen. He could only see its outline from the edges, and as soon as he got closer, a mysterious force barred his sight. It was a very mysterious power present in all things. It must be Qi Fortune. The Supreme Sect also gathered similar power, but compared to that continent, its Qi Fortune was like a grain of rice compared to the bright sun. He speculated that the continent was the strongest area in the great heavenly spirit land, but he could only observe with just his eyesight. That continent was also incredibly far from the land of the three dynasties. Crossing mountains and seas to reach it was harder than the journey to the west. Spring of the first year of being a carefree primordial immortal passed. Despite reaching a new realm, Guan continued living as before, traversing various medicine valleys, sometimes visiting the outer gate city to read, and occasionally drinking and chatting with friends. Life was very leisurely. In the mountains and forests, Yang Jian, dressed in blue, continuously attacked Guan. His movements were agile, and his punches and kicks were fierce, while Guan stood still, dismantling each move in an unhurried manner. The faster Yang Jian was, the slower Guan seemed. Yang Jian was kicked by Guan again, crashing into a tree and shaking down many leaves. This time, Yang Jian didn't have the strength to get up, his qi exhausted, but he didn't feel frustrated. Instead, he looked at his master expectantly. He couldn't match his master's prowess, but he wanted to hear his master's evaluation of him. The path of physical cultivation is not so narrow. Not just fists and feet can become magic artifacts. Every part of the body can, Guan said, feeling gratified. This boy's growth speed was amazing, even surpassing in how back then. Perhaps the elixir's efficacy still lingered, making Guan feel astonished. Set a goal. Reach the nirvana realm within 500 years. Before that, Yang Jian couldn't go down the mountain to train. At most, he could return to visit family. Yang Jian didn't know that his master had set a cultivation goal in his heart. He stood up and said, "Master, should I mainly practice the all things form and energy art, the heaven and earth primordial skill, or the Taoist gang primal energy you taught me?" They all seem profound and hard to master. Guan replied, "Take it slow, there's no need to rush to break through the cultivation realm. You can start by laying a solid foundation." Yang Jian felt it made sense. Following Guan in cultivation meant he had all the elixirs he needed and no usual expenses, so he didn't need to hurry. "Master, when would you be willing to participate in the celestial ranking tournament?" Yang Jian suddenly asked, his tone full of anticipation. Chapter 239. This time I win. Since being given a life-altering destiny by his master, Yang Jian believed that his master was the most powerful cultivator in the world. No one, be it the sword venerable Fu Dao, Taoist lord, or the super-powerful forces like the Seven Stars Spirit Realm and Star Sea congregations, could match his master. He wanted to see his master renowned across the world, for as his disciple, it would be a moment of pride. Guan looked at him with a stern expression and said, "Are you cultivating to seek fame, or to pursue immortality? If it is fame you seek, then go to the mundane world, where you can become an ultimate martial expert." Yang Jian thought his master was angry and quickly replied, "Of course it is to pursue immortality. Master, I was wrong. I was just curious after hearing other disciples talking about the ranking competition." Guan did not let him off so easily, using this opportunity to temper his character. In a heartfelt tone he said, "Not to mention your current physique is against the laws of nature. If others learn about it, it may bring disaster upon you. There are many who are aware of their heavenly destiny. I am strong, but there are always others out there stronger than the likes of loose immortals. A cultivator should cherish what they already have rather than recklessly seize opportunities. Do not flaunt, do not underestimate the common people of the world." Yang Jian felt ashamed, filled with guilt. Recently, he indeed had developed a sense of pride. seeing other disciples in the valley struggling with basic qi cultivation, while he was already at the foundation establishment level, feeling superior. Though I do not seek repayment from you, I do not want you to become someone who acts recklessly. Since you are cultivating immortality, you ought to understand that there is a heavenly destiny beyond human efforts. If you stray down the wrong path, you will eventually be punished by the heavens. I do not wish for you to become someone who seeks vainglory. Do you understand? Guan continued, bringing tears to Yang Jian's eyes. Yang Jian was not moved by grand principles. It was hearing his master say once more that repayment was not required that touched him, making him feel unworthy. He knew exactly what he was thinking. Even though he was reborn anew, his heart still harbored selfish desires and a darker side, making him feel ashamed of himself. Look at his master, clearly an immortal, yet never bullying the weak, humbly staying within the supreme sect, living among mortals without arrogance. He should learn from his master and become a true cultivator. Master, Yang Jian began, but was interrupted before he could finish. Let's go back. Guan turned and left, with Yang Jian quickly following. At the end of summer, Guan rode the blood prison Great Saint back from Tianya Valley. Along the way, the blood prison Great Saint kept cursing 3 monkey demons, and even begged Guan to release some of his cultivation, at least to the core formation realm. No rush, it's good for tempering your character. You are too impetuous, your words can hurt. Without proper tempering, you will bring calamity upon yourself sooner or later. Guan said nonchalantly, holding a peculiar book in his hand that Luo Hun had obtained from Li Xiandao. According to Luo Hun, this book was comparable to the Green Hero Travelogue. Indeed, the Three Dynasty land had many literary talents, and there were always those who could write better than Xian Tianyi. This book was not a travelogue, but a collection of tales about the romance and scandals in the imperial city. The blood prison Great Saint lost his spirit upon hearing Guan's words. He knew his faults, but once he got into an argument with someone, he couldn't quench his anger without giving them a good beating. Zhou Yu has developed hostility towards you and harbors killing intent. Would you like to perform lifespan detection on him? Zhou Yu, the former venerable pavilion of the Supreme Sect? Guan frowned, wondering why this guy had suddenly developed a killing intent towards him. Could it be related to Wu Ju? The Zhou family had already left the Supreme Sect, causing quite a stir. At least the disciples of the Supreme Sect regarded the Zhou family as traitors, especially given their choice of the Tsangtian sect. To this day, Tsangtian sect was the Supreme Sect's biggest rival. The disciples believed that to become the premier sect in the immortal cultivation world, they must surpass the Tsangtian sect. Guan spread his divine sense across the entire continent, searching for Wu Ju's presence, and quickly found him. Wu Ju was at the border forests of the Taizong dynasty, in a dilapidated temple. Besides him, there were several other cultivators present, standing off against him. At this moment, Wu Ju frowned deeply, his hands clenched into fists inside his sleeves. Zhou Yu, dressed in a black robe, stood in front of him, exuding authority. The other Zhou family cultivators looked at Wu Ju with disapproval. Wu Ju, our Zhou family has invested a lot of resources in you. Without the Zhou family, you wouldn't be who you are today. Are you really going to forget our kindness? A female cultivator said sternly. Others chimed in, with most of them hinting at threats in their tone. Wu Ju gritted his teeth and said, "The Supreme Sect has also been kind to me. Wouldn't joining the Zhou family be a betrayal of that?" Zhou Yu slowly spoke. "Sure, although the world is peaceful now, more and more ocean cultivators are arriving. The immortal cultivation world will face a catastrophe sooner or later. As far as I know, even the sect leader and supreme elder do not know the true identity of Sword Venerable Fudao. If there ever comes a day when Sword Venerable Fudao leaves, the supreme sect would be quickly annihilated." Wu Ju firmly responded, "Impossible. Why would the supreme sect alone face destruction? Is the Tsangtian sect absolutely safe? Besides Sword Venerable Fudao, there are other great cultivators in the supreme sect. I believe the supreme sect is stronger than the Tsangtian sect." In saying this, he was severing ties with Zhou Yu, who now served the Tsangtian sect. Zhou Yu's expression turned ugly, and he said, Think carefully, betrayal of the Zhou family will make you our enemy. Out of respect for our master-disciple relationship, I can let you go today, but in the future, I will kill you to uphold the Zhou family's reputation. Not only you, but anyone associated with you will die, such as your only brother in the supreme sect, Guan. Besides Guan, all your friends in the main city of the sect will also die. Zhou Yu truly did not want to let Wu Ju go, as Wu Ju's perception was too formidable. He believed Wu Ju could rival An Hao. The Tsungtian sect had no talent comparable to An Hao. Moreover, Wu Ju had no background and was alone. In the future, he could marry into the Zhou family, continuing the lineage of exceptional talent. Upon hearing this, Wu Ju's expression turned grim. He tried to keep calm, took a deep breath, and asked, "Since when did you start investigating me?" When Zhou Yu mentioned Guan, Wu Ju panicked. So the Zhou family still had spies within the supreme sect. Zhou Yu said calmly, "From the day you became my disciple, I understood all your relationships. It's not too late to turn back now. You can even bring those you care about into the Tsungtian sect in the future." This time he didn't mention Guan, because he couldn't draw in Guan, knowing Guan was actually Panan and close to LV Baitian. The thought that Guan could influence Wu Ju meant that LV Baitian might be able to win over Wu Ju, inflaming his killing intent. Why should LV Baitian have both An Hao and Wu Ju, these two peerless talents? Wu Ju fell into a struggle. If the Zhou family came only for him, he wouldn't be afraid. But since it involved Guan, he had to hesitate. His talent and perception were top-notch, and he believed he could become a world-shaking force. But he was still young and needed time to grow. The Zhou family, in his eyes, was a colossal existence, one he couldn't challenge alone. The Zhou family still had spies within the supreme sect. He couldn't keep an eye on Guan all the time. What if one day a Zhou family spy attacked Guan? He couldn't bear to imagine such a scenario. Damn it. Wu Ju clenched his fists, staring at Zhou Yu with eyes ablaze. Zhou Yu sighed and said, "Disciple actually, Boom! A sudden thunderbolt struck down with a speed that left Wu Ju and the others no time to react, hitting Zhou Yu and sending everyone flying from the blast. Wu Ju hit the wall but quickly stabilized himself, looking over, and his eyes widened. Zhou Yu had vanished. The spot where he stood was charred black and smoking. The other Zhou family cultivators were wide-eyed, their expressions stunned. "Master." A disciple called out quickly, but received no response. "Not good, there's a supreme sect great cultivator nearby." A female disciple shouted and disappeared, followed by the other cultivators, forgetting all about Wu Ju. Wu Ju stood in a daze, hesitated for a moment, and then chose to leave. On the way out, he couldn't help but wonder if Zhou Yu was dead or alive. Who could have struck that thunderbolt? It couldn't have been a coincidence that Zhou Yu was struck by natural lightning, right? Elsewhere, Guan, still riding on the blood prison great saint's back, felt bored with the mere 92 years of lifespan gained from killing Zhou Yu. I hope the Zhou family knows their place and stops developing hostility towards me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless, Guan thought silently. While he continued to choose a low-profile approach to cultivation, he was not someone the Zhou family could provoke. Fortunately, in the days that followed, no one from the Zhou family developed hostility towards Guan. No one believed that a newly formed core formation cultivator, like Guan, could have killed Zhou Yu, a cultivator of the 9th layer of the unification realm out of thin air. The one who killed Zhou Yu must have been at the Mystic Heart realm, or even the Mahayana realm, which was an obvious warning from the supreme sect to the Zhou family. In a bright grand hall, thousands of cultivators gathered. The vast palace was expansive, with a hallway over 100 feet wide and rows of transmission array platforms on either side, with cultivators constantly teleporting in. An Hao stood in place, curiously looking around at everyone. I heard that this entrance exam involves Liya from Divine Exotic City. Divine Exotic City? Could it be that Immortal Path Supreme Treasure? Yes, that Liya is indeed lucky. Who knows how powerful he is with the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure? I hope he can't use the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. How could we compete against that? Without using the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, he's just a minor cultivator from the barbarian continent, nothing noteworthy. And Hao listened to the disciples' discussions around him, filled with mixed emotions. The influence of the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure was enormous, and Li Ya's name had reached the Star Sea congregations, making the new disciples who were about to enter the sect hostile towards him. Just as he was thinking, a voice called out, "And how long time no see? This time it's my turn to win." And Hao turned his head to see two men walking towards him, one of whom exuded demon energy. It was Li Ya and Zhang Buku. Li Ya appeared confident, eyes fixed on Hao, while Zhang Buku looked full of curiosity. Chapter 240. Sworn to protect. Looking at Li Ya, who was full of fighting spirit, and Hao remained unmoved. If it had been before, he might have expected to spar with Li Ya. But now his mind was occupied only with that junior brother he had never met. Li Ya possessed the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, and was no longer the same as before. And Hao naturally did not consider himself a match for Li Ya. However, excluding the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, and Hao truly did not think Li Ya was qualified to be his opponent. Li Ya thought he was timid, so he said, "Don't worry. When I spar with you, I won't use that treasure. But if it's against others, I won't hold back at all, and it'll show off our supreme sect's might." Zhang Buku stood beside them and snorted. "I don't mind if you use that supreme treasure. In fact, I want to test its sharpness." And Hao looked at Zhang Buku. He had met Zhang Buku before, at a time when Zhang Buku and Li Ya were already inseparable, though they had not yet become acquainted. He found Zhang Buku very interesting, and could feel the immense strength of his chi blood. In terms of real strength, he was certainly stronger than Li Ya. "What's your name?" And Hao asked Zhang Buku, staring at him. Zhang Buku replied, "My name is Zhang Buku. I'm Li Ya's brother." Li Ya's mouth twitched, but he did not refute. And Hao nodded and then said nothing more, turning around. Li Ya became interested, stepped forward and said, "The three of us come from the Supreme Sect and have joined the Star Sea congregations at the same time. Regardless of victories or defeats in the future, how about mutual support?" And Hao nodded without objection. In his heart, the Supreme Sect held a high position. Helping fellow disciples was only natural to him. Li Ya and Zhang Buku stepped forward and stayed beside Hao, starting to chat and share their past experiences. And Hao initially didn't care, but as he listened, he became captivated by their experiences. Were these two so eager for battle? Very soon, Zhang Buku and Li Ya started arguing, each blaming the other. And Hao suddenly felt a bit envious of them, as they could rely on each other no matter where they went. Thinking of his junior sister, an Xian, and Hao couldn't help but sigh. Even he felt that the heavens were unfair. While Li Ya and the others wandered in the Star Sea congregations, far away at the Supreme Sect, Guan and his disciples lived their lives as usual for 10 years. 10 years passed in a flash. Guan's age reached 139. That summer, the Heaven Ranking Tournament, hosted by the Supreme Sect, was about to begin, plunging the Supreme Sect into an unprecedented state of prosperity. In the Third Medicine Valley, within a pavilion, Guan looked at his attribute panel. His lifespan had recovered to 8 million years, and he was secretly satisfied. When he broke through to the carefree primordial immortal, the lifespan barrier alone cost him nearly 1 million years of life. In 10 years, he had gained more than 4 million years of life, which was quite stable. Next, Guan planned to aim for 100 million years of life, at which point he would comprehensively enhance his attribute panel before breaking through to higher realms. Although it seemed far off to gain a 100 million year lifespan in just 10 years, Guan was not anxious. He still had a trump card, which was the Outer World Cave Heaven. The seventh-order medicinal herbs in the Outer World Cave Heaven couldn't mature in just a few decades, and every month, Guan brought in high-rank seeds. What Guan was currently thinking about was collecting an Immortal Path spirit tree. Last year, during a private auction held by Sage Tang Hai, an Immortal Path spirit tree appeared, but unfortunately, its price skyrocketed. Guan could not afford it due to his regular purchases of high-rank medical herbs. The other party was a great cultivator from the Star Sea congregations with deep pockets and an astonishing background. Guan had not resorted to robbing for a single tree. There was no need to make enemies, as an Immortal Path spirit tree would not gain him 1 million year lifespan at once. Moreover, at that time the Supreme Sect and the Star Sea congregations were on good terms. His disciple, Anhao, was also comfortably staying in the Star Sea congregations. There would be another chance in the future. Seizing this heaven-ranking tournament, Guan planned to amass wealth. He was looking forward to the upcoming excitement. He stood up, preparing to head for the Mystic Valley, as an acquaintance had returned. After coming downstairs, Guan called over Yang Jian, then rode with the Blood Prison Great Saint to the Mystic Valley through teleportation. The disciples of the Mystic Valley had all seen the Blood Prison Great Saint and Yang Jian over the years, so they knew of their relationship with Guan. Guan did not go upstairs, but began patrolling the gardens in the valley, with Yang Jian and the Blood Prison Great Saint following. After 10 years, the 32-year-old Yang Jian had already reached the second layer of the core formation realm. At such an age, with such cultivation, he was among the top-tier talents of the time. Considering that Yang Jian, at the age of 20, was only at the third layer of Qi cultivation realm, his talent was immeasurable. Yang Jian still concealed his cultivation, appearing to be at the seventh layer of Qi cultivation realm. Yang Jian, who practiced the all things form and energy art and the heaven and earth primordial skill, had an extremely powerful Qi blood. Guan judged that cultivators at the nascent soul realm couldn't withstand his strength. With Gu An's teaching, Yang Jian had grown more steady, neither arrogant nor impetuous, showing the demeanor of a true disciple. I heard the Taoist lord of the Tsangtian sect has arrived. Yang Jian chatted with the Blood Prison Great Saint about the heaven-ranking tournament. The Blood Prison Great Saint was also very interested, and the two only talked about others, not their own cultivation, a habit developed under Gu An's long-term instructions. After a while, a figure flew from the distant sky. It was Li Ya. Yang Jian turned his head to look, curiosity showing in his eyes. What a powerful aura. Li Ya came on his sword, like an immortal descending from the sky. After sheathing his sword, he quickly walked to the edge of the garden and greeted Guan. Guan smiled and said, "Senior brother Li, what brings you here? Wait for me for a moment." Li Ya nodded, his gaze inadvertently falling on Yang Jian. Although Yang Jian's cultivation was low, his demeanor was extraordinary. What is this person's relationship with junior brother Gu? Li Ya thought to himself. After a while, Guan handed over medicinal herbs to a servant disciple, then led Yang Jian towards Li Ya. He introduced Yang Jian to Li Ya, asking Yang Jian to greet him. Yang Jian greets Uncle Master. Yang Jian clasped his fists, neither humble nor overbearing. Although Li Ya's aura was strong, it couldn't compare to Guan. If Guan hadn't concealed his cultivation, the two wouldn't be considered fellow disciples. Li Ya, hearing this, curiously asked, "Is it the Yang Jian from the Investiture of the Gods?" Yang Jian nodded and said, "I loved reading the Investiture of the Gods since I was a child, and I changed my name to symbolize my aspiration after joining the sect." Li Ya smiled, then took out a treasure sword from his storage bag and gave it to Yang Jian. Yang Jian looked at Guan, and only after seeing Guan nod did he accept it. Li Ya pulled Guan towards the pavilion, while Guan beckoned Yang Jian to follow, causing Li Ya to hesitate. "Jianer is my truly accepted disciple, whom I've taught everything I know. Let him follow us and broaden his horizons," Guan said with a smile. Li Ya, hearing this, took another look at Yang Jian. He understood Gu An's implied meaning. "I see. If you ever encounter trouble while adventuring out there, you can always come to me, your uncle master," Li Ya said with an air of spirit, to which Yang Jian quickly expressed his gratitude. Guan found it amusing. Li Ya had guessed his intention correctly, but got the relationship wrong. He wasn't setting Yang Jian up with a backer, but the other way around. After the three went upstairs, Li Ya began recounting his experiences within the Star Sea congregations. He had already become a true disciple of the Star Sea congregations, although his cultivation was the lowest among them, relying on the Divine Exotic City. Although Yang Jian had joined later, he had heard of the Divine Exotic City. Unexpectedly, the Supreme Sect cultivator who seized the Divine Exotic City years ago turned out to be his uncle master. He suddenly suspected that Li Ya had obtained the Divine Exotic City with help from his master. "By the way, I heard there was an internal assessment in the Star Sea congregations. Did you participate?" Guan suddenly asked. Li Ya's expression instantly became unnatural. I did, and I got quite a good ranking, entering the top 100. I became a true disciple based on my own strength. Guan didn't believe it. Over the years, Leah had used the power of the divine exotic city quite often. I heard and Hao also participated. What was his ranking? Guan continued to ask. Li Ya's expression became even more awkward. Yang Jian's eyes lit up, and he asked, Master, are you talking about the #1 genius of the Supreme Sect, and Hao? That's right, it's him. Yang Jian fell into contemplation. Li Ya ambiguously said, his ranking was also good. Without using the divine exotic city, I indeed couldn't match him. Guan curiously asked, what do you mean? Did you two meet again? Li Ya felt aggrieved. Was junior brother Gu doing this on purpose? Trying to embarrass me in front of a junior? He did indeed run into An Hao. He had subdued many great cultivators with the divine exotic city. But when facing An Hao for the sake of fairness, he didn't use the divine exotic city, and ended up disastrously defeated. This incident became widely known inside the Star Sea congregations, and An Hao made a name for himself by stepping on him, leaving him very frustrated. Although frustrated, he did not regret it. An Hao had always been his goal to chase. He wanted to know how far apart their real strengths were. Guan chuckled, knowing his disciple had defeated Li Ya. He felt a sense of satisfaction. Sigh, this kind of attitude was not good. Guan changed the topic, talking about the heaven ranking tournament. Li Ya said the reason he came back was that the Supreme Sect had sent a message, asking him to return. The Supreme Sect needed the power of the divine exotic city to deal with great cultivators from overseas. After all, this was the first heaven ranking tournament hosted by the Supreme Sect. LV Batian hoped to maintain the title of #1 in the world, even if the opponents were cultivators from Holy Lands or great cultivators from overseas. Guan felt LV Batian was not being fair, but he couldn't criticize. Dharma treasures were part of a cultivator's strength. Besides him, who on the immortal path didn't rely on Dharma treasures in combat? Senior Brother Li, what do you think of my disciple? 500 years from now, I'll have him participate in the heaven ranking tournament. Maybe he will even encounter you then, Guan said with a smile. Li Ya glanced at Yang Jian and said, his cultivation is a bit low. To compete for the #1 position in the world, he still needs a big opportunity. Yang Jian remained silent, standing honestly aside. Guan laughed and said, in any case, I believe my disciple has great chi fortune. He will eventually astonish the world. Although I'm uncertain if he'll live to see that day, I hope you will support each other on the immortal cultivation path, advancing and retreating together. After all, this path requires more than just oneself. These words made Li Ya emotional. He knew junior brother Gus' talent was mediocre, so he certainly couldn't vie for longevity like him. Li Ya earnestly said, rest assured, your disciple is my disciple. As long as I am alive, I will protect him with my life. Anyone who dares to harm him must step over my dead body first. Yang Jian looked at Li Ya, his eyes showing a change. Chapter 241. Sword Venerable Fudao, will you battle me? Li Ya returned this time and brought many gifts for Guan, including immortal cultivation medicinal herbs and overseas magic artifacts. When Guan tried to make some polite conversation, Li Ya didn't bother with the pleasantries, and left directly through the window, leaving Guan in silence. Yang Jian also marveled at what a peculiar person this uncle master was. Although Li Ya seemed unreliable, Yang Jian still held a good opinion of his actions and words. Just based on Li Ya's previous declaration that he would protect him to the death, Yang Jian acknowledged him as his uncle master. After staying in Mystic Valley for a while, Guan took Yang Jian and Blood Prison Great Saint to the Outer Gate City. With the approaching grand tournament, cultivators frequently flew across the sky, not just from Supreme Sect but from all over the world. No matter the outcome of the grand tournament, Supreme Sect was set to gain substantial benefits this time. And Guan was eager to see how much profit Supreme Sect would share with Sword Venerable Fudao. Days passed by. 5 days later, though the weather was hot, the inner and outer gate city was crowded due to the imminent start of the grand tournament. In front of the South City Gate, countless cultivators gathered, forming a vast sea of humans, their heads bobbing, creating a spectacular scene. Following their gaze, in the sky stood an array platform surrounded by 72 large flags, with a diameter over 100 miles, its base emitting a faint golden light forming a golden platform that blotted out the sky when looked at from below. This array, known as the Luotian Floating City Battle Array, was purchased by Supreme Sect from Star Sea congregations, specifically for great cultivators to compete in combat, at a huge cost. Maintaining this array required massive amounts of spiritual energy. It was said that Supreme Sect had already channeled the spiritual energies from their underground spirit lineages into the array. Every city and medicine valley within Supreme Sect had formations projecting the scene of the Luotian Floating City Battle Array. These transmission formations were not very expensive, so even Mystic Valley had an array set up by Supreme Sect, allowing all disciples in the valley to watch the match. In the Third Medicine Valley, over 900 disciples gathered in the pavilion area, some meditating on the ground, some sitting on benches, looking up at the light screen in the sky, waiting for the grand tournament to begin. Before the combat even started, the disciples were already excitedly discussing. Guan sat by a stone table, savoring pastries. Yang Jian, an ex-Xian, Xiaochuan, and Yu Yingying sat at the same table, also discussing the grand tournament. The names of each great cultivator were mentioned from their mouths. Over the past decade, many oceanic great cultivators had established their fame in the three dynasties, making it uncertain who would claim the title of the world's number one. These ocean cultivators temporarily stayed in the three dynasties region, leaving many opportunities behind, promoting the development of the immortal cultivation world, and establishing a reputation for virtue and greatness. Yu Yingying mentioned an ocean great cultivator named Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord. Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord claimed to be the reincarnation of an immortal, possessing vast divine skills. The Star Sea congregations tried to recruit him but were refused. His whereabouts were mysterious, like a dragon glimpsed but never seen fully. He liked to teach beings with mediocre talents, earning admiration. She believed Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord could claim the first position in the grand tournament. Xiaochuan couldn't help but say, "Why are these ocean great cultivators meddling in the grand tournament? Isn't this bullying?" Yu Yingying replied, "Although the Three Dynasties region is weak, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm in the mainland is not. As long as cultivators from the Seven Stars Spirit Realm participate, other great cultivators will be drawn in, all wanting to establish their fame by stepping over the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Of course, there might be undercurrents I'm unaware of. This grand tournament is indeed unusual with so many great cultivators joining." An ex-Xian nodded, saying, "It said there are 500 participants, with half coming from overseas. The Three Dynasties cultivators only make up a third. Besides Li Ya, the weakest among them is in the Mystic Heart Realm." Many withdrew after seeing the participant list, leading to the current situation. Yang Jian remained silent, gazing at the illusion in the sky with yearning in his eyes. The title of the world's number one was certainly mesmerizing. Guan didn't join their discussion. He knew the level of participants in the grand tournament better than anyone. Currently, 5 loose immortals had gathered within Supreme Sect. The number of Nirvana realm cultivators reached 17, and there were over 100 Mahayana realm cultivators. If nothing unexpected happened, sects within the three dynasties couldn't hope to claim the first position in the grand tournament, or even make it into the top 20. The only hope lay with the supernatural city's Li Ya. Moreover, Guan sensed a wandering immortal's presence, hidden in the mountains outside Supreme Sect, purpose unknown. This grand tournament was no longer just a test among the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. Guan wasn't worried though. If Supreme Sect faced destruction, he would intervene. If they weren't in danger, he wouldn't act even if Supreme Sect lost. One must accept their inferiority. Until noon, the Luotian Floating City Battle Array finally changed. The 72 large flags trembled, bursting with golden light, quickly forming a majestic palace, vast and transparent, allowing the outside world to see inside. Today, the first grand tournament of Supreme Sect will begin. I am LV Baitian, the Supreme Sect leader, here to announce the rules of the grand tournament. It's all about winning. No killing. LV Baitian's voice spread throughout Supreme Sect through the array light screens, silencing the hustle and bustle instantly. Guan turned his head, asking an Xian to bring over a few more plates of pastries, and an Xian immediately obeyed. After a while, LV Baitian finished explaining the rules of the grand tournament, and began announcing the first match. The first match today will be between the Tsangtian sect. Before LV Baitian finished his words, a vast pressure engulfed Supreme Sect, interrupting him. Wait a moment. An aged voice echoed between heaven and earth, catching countless people off guard. Was someone going to interfere with the grand tournament? Yang Jian and the others beside Guan also tensed up. Before the grand tournament begins, could Sword Venerable Fudao have a match with me? I am Bai Luo, the island master of Jinghai Bai Luo Island, known as Sage Bai Luo. The aged voice's words caused a tremendous uproar within Supreme Sect. Someone dared to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao. Yu Yingying frowned, saying, Sage Bai Luo? How is he involved? Did he align with someone? Xiaochuan couldn't help but ask. What realm is Sage Bai Luo in? Is he also an immortal? He is an immortal. As for his specific cultivation level, I'm not sure. He's beyond my reach. I just heard rumors, Yu Yingying replied. Meanwhile, a figure appeared within the Luotian floating city battle array, prompting countless people to look up. Through the array light screens, they saw the figure. Clad in a green robe, the figure stood tall, holding a long staff. His white hair was coiled under a jade crown, his face old and stern, with green flames burning atop the staff, resembling coiling dragons and serpents, emitting a mysterious aura. Sage Bai Luo. An overwhelming ancient aura descends upon him, causing every cultivator who witnessed his true form to feel an innate sense of awe, akin to mortals gazing at the vast sky, instinctively revering heaven. In the outer gate city, on the heavenly repair platform, Supreme Sect's high-ranking officials gathered. LV Baitian, Jihantian, and Xianquan were all present. Zhuo Yijian stood beside the heaven-cutting axe, frowning, his gaze towards Sage Bai Luo filled with hostility. For such a grand occasion, someone jumped out to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao, appearing to harbor ill intentions. However, he wasn't worried, even somewhat excited. Sword Venerable Fudao had not taken action for many years. Although his legend remained, overseas cultivators were unclear about his actual strength. LV Baitian looked up at the Luotian floating city battle array, frowning and snorting coldly. As expected, someone is looking for trouble. I just don't know which force sent him. If Sword Venerable Fudao were defeated or refused to fight, Supreme Sect's control over the grand tournament would weaken sharply, potentially leading to the tournament's collapse and a crisis of annihilation for Supreme Sect. Gu Zong looked at LV Baitian, whispering, Sect leader, this person isn't on the participant list. LV Baitian nodded, replying calmly, then let's wait and see. It's time for the overseas cultivators to witness his power. Other high-ranking officials in Supreme Sect also showed anticipation. Sword Venerable Fudao was not only invincible in the hearts of Supreme Sect's disciples, but also to these high-ranking cultivators. He quelled internal strife, slew demon ancestors, killed immortals, vanquished evil demons, and more. Sword Venerable Fudao's might wasn't just talk, it was established through battles witnessed by Supreme Sect's disciples. In the Third Medicine Valley, just by listening to the disciples' discussions, Guan realized he couldn't avoid taking action. So be it, it had been a long time since he showcased his swordsmanship. Guan leaned against the stone table, swirling his wine cup with one hand, a slight smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Yang Jian, who had been observing his master, noticed the change in his master's expression and felt a shock in his heart. Could it be that Sword Venerable Fudao was his master? Having learned about Sword Venerable Fudao's legendary tales over the years, Yang Jian had often speculated about this. Could a sect hide two mysterious powerhouses surpassing all disciples? Sword Venerable Fudao, could it be that you dare not show yourself? Or do you look down upon someone from a remote island like me? Sage Bai Luo's voice rang out again, majestic and resounding. Hearing his mocking words, Supreme Sect's disciples were enraged. their anger surpassing their innate reverence. They began hoping that Sword Venerable Fudao would take action and teach this oceanic rogue a good lesson. Rumble. Suddenly, the sky's weather changed, clouds churned, white clouds turned black, and the world darkened, prompting countless people to look up. Inside the Luotian floating city battle array, Sage Bai Luo also looked up, seeing the rolling thunderclouds. He snorted, shaking his long staff, and his vast mana erupted, forming 2 azure dragons coiling within the array palace. Their bodies spanned 100 miles, enough to silence all beings. The 2 azure dragons slowly lifted their heads, roaring towards the sky, their dragon cries echoing endlessly. It is said that Sword Venerable Fudao's swordsmanship is unparalleled in the world. Today, let's see if you can break my array. Sage Bai Luo's voice echoed again. He waved his sleeve, sending countless magic artifacts into the air between the 2 azure dragons. Wind and fire swirled, entangling the dragons, causing them to grow rapidly, their heads piercing the top of the Luotian floating city battle array. At that moment, the thunderclouds suddenly parted, revealing a vast starry sea in the sky. All creatures' eyes reflected the resplendent starry sea, magnificent and fantastical. Chapter 242. The Sword Intent That Silences Heaven and Earth. The moment the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword was unleashed, a majestic panorama of the starry sea unfolded above the sky, occupying the vision of all cultivators within the supreme sect. When the demon ancestor had previously attacked the Northern Territory, this sword array had also appeared, but only the frontline cultivators had seen it. Now 90% of the cultivators within the Supreme Sect were seeing this sword array for the first time, and they were all astounded. Especially the disciples who had joined the Supreme Sect in the past few decades. They were utterly stupefied. A sword array capable of changing the heavens. How many years of cultivation would it take to reach such a level? Within the Luotian floating city battle array, Sage Bai Luo was locked in by the sword intent of the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. The moment the infinite starry sea appeared, he felt his mana solidify within him. A suppression so intense that it made his heart pound. Sage Bai Luo's face paled, regret creeping into his heart. He had thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was merely a wandering immortal. After all, Sword Venerable Fudao had previously only slain loose immortals. Despite knowing he might not be a match for Fudao, he believed he could at least gauge his opponent's strength. Now, feeling the sword intent of Fudao, he was reminded of the insignificance he felt 1,000,000 years ago. The gap between them was immense, at least a full major realm apart. He was a wandering immortal. So Sword Venerable Fudao must be heaven and earth. Sage Bai Luo muttered through gritted teeth. This time he did not call out to heaven and earth, knowing he couldn't escape and had no choice but to fight to the bitter end. After a brief moment of silence, the Supreme Sect exploded in an uproar. Countless disciples of the Supreme Sect raised their arms and cheered. The high-level cultivators on the Heavenly Repair platform were equally excited, with Zuaijian beside the heaven-cutting axe even kneeling down in a posture of devout worship. In the Third Medicine Valley, over 900 disciples were similarly excited, shouting the name of Sword Venerable Fudao. Yu Yingying saw Sword Venerable Fudao in action for the first time, her small mouth agape with an expression of incredulity. Yang Jian was also frightened. What kind of sword array was this? Too exaggerated. He couldn't help but look at Guan, who also wore a shocked expression. Could Sword Venerable Fudao not be his master? Indeed, he had not sensed his master's mana dissipating. Pay close attention and see how much you can comprehend. Guan's voice suddenly reached Yang Jian's ears, making him widen his eyes in astonishment. Was his master really Sword Venerable Fudao? This sword array. How did he accomplish it? He didn't see him make a move. Already having formed his core, Yang Jian felt he had a deep understanding of immortal cultivation, but today his master's technique overturned his comprehension. The vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword was high above, far from the Third Medicine Valley. No one would have thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was hiding here. Yang Jian had thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was up in that vast starry sea, overlooking all beings. At that moment, The stars in the vast sea burst into light, and one by one, stars began to fall, more and more, densely packed, with a momentum that suggested the sky was collapsing, bringing the clamor of heaven and earth to a sudden halt. All beings looked up, their eyes wide and silent, as if witnessing an immortal phenomenon. Countless stars fell, bursting with sword chi, causing the trees of the mountains and rivers to sway violently, and dust to be swept away into the distance. Within the inner sect city, Leah stayed in a courtyard, looking up at the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword, secretly alarmed. Could the Taitsong divine shocking sword reach such a degree? He turned his head to look at the divine exotic immortal spirit on his shoulder and asked, could divine exotic city withstand this sword with its power? Withstand? I almost got killed by him and you're asking me that? The divine exotic immortal spirit, feeling the sword intent from the sky, could confirm that sword venerable Fudao was indeed his master. He replied, not sure. His voice, full of childishness, contrasted sharply with his inner thoughts. Leah continued watching the light screen in the sky, wanting to see if Sage Bai Luo could withstand a single strike from sword venerable Fudao. Facing the endless stream of star sword energy, Sage Bai Luo shouted angrily, raising his staff as surging mana flowed into two azure dragons, which were wreathed in fierce flames and strong winds as they soared into the sky. The dragon's roar exploded. Countless people held their breath. Numerous streams of star sword energy fell, colliding with the dragons in midair. The gigantic azure dragons, ridge-like, were blocked abruptly. Starting from the dragon's head, they were shattered one after another, dissolving into azure winds sweeping across the world. In an instant, the two azure dragons were obliterated by the star sword energy. The power of the sword chi was unstoppable. Sage Bai Luo was illuminated by the sword light. His eyes widened, filled with fear. As the relentless star sword energy poured into the Luotian floating city battle array, a resplendent sword light erupted, causing heaven and earth to lose color, and countless beings to close their eyes. Blinded, only the sound of the wind could be heard. Several breaths later, cultivators gradually regained their vision. As more and more people opened their eyes, when they saw the scene within the light screen in the sky, their hearts raced. The Luotian floating city battle array remained, but its golden light at the base fluctuated violently, on the verge of dispersing, while Sage Bai Luo, kneeling inside, maintained a raised staff stance. The staff in his hands was only half remaining, smoldering, and he was covered in blood, his hair disheveled and utterly battered. Sage Bai Luo trembled all over, his bulging eyes bloodshot. The infinite starry panorama was slowly dissipating, signaling the end of the battle. Sage Bai Luo's heart filled with endless fear. Luckily, he had sought battle before the heavenly ranking tournament. Otherwise, at any other time, he might have perished. He couldn't even withstand a single move from sword venerable Fudao. Gritting his teeth, he wobbled to his feet, turning and flying towards the horizon, rapidly escaping the Luotian floating city battle array and disappearing to the edge of the sky. When he came, he was wildly boastful, but when he left, he was a defeated silence. Heaven and earth erupted in thunderous cheers. So strong! This is the strength of sword venerable Fudao? That Sage Bai Luo was so arrogant before. Who would have thought he'd be defeated so completely? If the sect leader hadn't set the rules, I bet he'd be dead. No kidding, once sword venerable Fudao makes a move, who can survive? It said the vice sect leader survived. Could he also be an immortal? Disciples of the Supreme Sect jeered at Sage Bai Luo and praised the overwhelming power of sword venerable Fudao. Even disciples from other sects were excited, though the great cultivators preparing for the heavenly ranking tournament grew tense. After this battle, they dared not act recklessly. The sword intent just now had snuffed out any fighting spirit. The morale of the Supreme Sect soared. The sect bustling as if celebrating the new year. Once the sword intent illusion above the sky completely disappeared, the Luotian floating city battle array also returned to its full state. The first match of the heavenly ranking tournament. Zhou Zhu of Heaven Sect versus Gu Xian of the Supreme Sect. LV Baishan's voice rang out again, this time brimming with dominance, as if he were sword venerable Fudao himself. Following his words, Zhou Zhu and Gu Xian flew into the array. Zhou Zhu's face was complicated, while Gu Xian looked spirited. They exchanged a few words, judging by the mouth movements. It seemed Gu Xian was mocking the Zhou family's choice. In the third medicine valley, Guan stood up and said, "You all keep watching, I'll go fetch something from inside." An Xian and Xiaochuan nodded, while Yu Yingying remained immersed in the grandeur of Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Yang Jian watched Gu An's departing figure, his mind speculating. He didn't bother thinking about the fate of Sage Bailuo. Instead, he began to recall the magnificence of the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. He had thought that executing Sword Dao required a sword, but his master had neither drawn a sword nor moved an inch earlier. Yet a sword array was created by mere thought? Unbelievable. Yang Jian felt a surge of hot blood in his chest. One day he too would create such divine skills. Covered in blood, Sage Bailuo swiftly flew off the continent, unable to calm his heart, fearing that Sword Venerable Fu Dao might pursue him. At the same time his eyes were filled with rage. Damn the 7 stars spirit realm for such inaccurate intelligence. No wonder they sent me as cannon fodder, despicable. Sage Bailuo thought hatefully as he cursed the 7 stars spirit realm. He took out an elixir and quickly swallowed it, speeding up his flight. As he passed an island, a hand suddenly landed on his shoulder. His face changed dramatically, and before he could react, an immense force he had never felt before pressed down, causing his body to plummet rapidly. Boom! Dust erupted from the forest in the depths of the island, causing the entire island to quake, with waves surging on the surrounding sea. The dust cleared, trees lay toppled, and a massive crater appeared. Under the sunlight, Sage Bailuo knelt within the crater, a dark purple demonic hand on his shoulder. Looking back, it was Guan in the 9 extremes yin-yang body state. Sage Bailuo was terrified, struggling to look back, his pupils dilated in shock. He couldn't stand up, nor could his primordial spirit emerge. At that moment he was like a mere mortal, powerless to resist. His terror peaked, and despair cloaked his heart. Sword Venerable. Sage Bailuo stuttered, but before he could finish, a terrifying divine sense surged into his mind, causing his eyes to lose their luster. The sea breeze blew, scattering the nearby dust and fluttering Sage Bailuo's tattered robes. Guan used the soul-capturing skill to search Sage Bailuo's memories. Not long after, he retracted his divine sense, his right palm igniting with 3 pure one's true fire, swiftly enveloping Sage Bailuo. Even though Sage Bailuo was just a tool, daring to provoke him meant death. If Guan had not been a match for Sage Bailuo today, he would have been the one to die. In a saying from his past life, showing mercy to one's enemy is being cruel to oneself. Guan conveniently took Sage Bailuo's storage ring, but his mind dwelled on the 7 stars spirit realm. The force behind Sage Bailuo's probing of Sword Venerable Fu Dao was indeed the 7 stars spirit realm. However, in Sage Bailuo's memories, there was no encounter with an actual cultivator of the 7 stars spirit realm, only a ghost meeting him for the discussion. As long as Sage Bailuo agreed, after the mission, the 7 stars spirit realm would offer him an opportunity to listen to Dao lectures. What specific Dao, the memories didn't specify, but judging by Sage Bailuo's excitement, it must be extraordinary. Could it be the lectures of the heaven and earth flying immortal? Could there be a carefree primordial immortal in the 7 stars spirit realm? Guan fell into contemplation. Regardless, after today, the 7 stars spirit realm would be fully targeting Sword Venerable Fu Dao. It was necessary to probe the depths of the 7 stars spirit realm. If there was no carefree primordial immortal, it must be eradicated. Gu An's heart harbored killing intent. Without exterminating the 7 stars spirit realm, he wouldn't feel at peace. Chapter 243 The Pressure from Sword Venerable Fu Dao in the Third Medicine Valley. Guan went downstairs and returned to the stone table, where he watched the grand battle of the Tianbang tournament with the disciples. Killing Sage Bailuo earned Guan a lifespan of more than 7,000 years, which wasn't too bad. Sage Bailuo was over 70,000 years old. He hadn't broken through a minor realm in over 10,000 years, so he had been searching for immortality opportunities for many years. The 7 stars spirit realm targeted his needs to lure him into action. Guan did not sympathize with Sage Bailuo. People always have to take responsibility for their choices. What he was considering now was how to deal with the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. If the Seven Stars Spirit Realm hadn't plotted against him, he might not have confronted them. After all, delaying time was more beneficial to him. The first match of the Tianbang tournament had not yet ended. It was difficult for great cultivators of the same realm to determine a winner. Gu Xian and Zhou Zhu both had Mystic Heart Realm cultivation, and evidently had a real grudge, using all their skills to the fullest, providing a feast for the spectators' eyes. It is said that the Zhou family has withdrawn all its disciples from the Supreme Sect, while the Gu family has done the opposite, fully supporting the Supreme Sect. Both sides are clashing, likely hiding a battle of pride. With Sword Venerable Fudao around, how could the Zhou family be so short-sighted? Who knows what kind of bewitching potion that Sangtian sect gave the Zhou family? It is said that until now, Sword Venerable Fudao has not attacked other sects, so those sects might hold on to illusions, thinking they have a chance to win him over. The combat between Mystic Heart Realm cultivators is already so fierce. I cannot imagine what the battle between Mahayana Realm cultivators would be like. The Supreme Sect was abuzz with discussions about the Tianbang combats, and the grudges between the Zhou family and the Supreme Sect spread throughout cities and towns. And Xian and Xiaochuan, who were beside Guan, were discussing this matter. Yu Yingying from the Star Sea congregations ridiculed the Zhou family for their stupidity in believing that Sangtian sect's nonsense. In her view, the only reason Sword Venerable Fudao stayed at the Supreme Sect was due to a sense of affinity. The combined resources of the Three Morning Land couldn't possibly entice him. Yang Jian was also pondering what charm the Supreme Sect had to keep his master there. The first match of the Tianbang tournament concluded with Gu Xian's victory. As the host, the Supreme Sect gained considerable prestige. Even the overseas cultivators had to change their views on them. Though the foundations of the Supreme Sect were still weak, the sect's momentum was now unstoppable. The second match was between overseas cultivators. Guan suspected that LV Baitian manipulated it again, but it didn't matter much, as the Tianbang tournament was a knockout competition. When they lose, they are eliminated. For those aiming to win first place, they only cared about the final victory. Even if other cultivators had opinions about the rankings, they could not afford to lose face in front of the world. This match, a combat between Mahayana Realm cultivators, was magnificent, with spells and divine skills displayed in grandeur, causing the bottom of the Luotian floating city battle array to glow with a rainbow of light. The Mahayana Realm cultivators' battle lasted nearly 2 ancient hours before a winner emerged. Most spectators did not find it tedious and remained excited. The Tianbang tournament continued day and night. Even at night, there were combats. On the third day, Yi Lan and Zhen Qin came to find Gu and to watch the battle together. They had learned that there was a match involving Li Ya today, so they wanted to witness Li Ya's divine skills together. Yi Lan sat beside Guan, reminiscing about their days in the Mystic Valley. Recalling the past, neither she nor Zhen Qin could have imagined reaching today. Whether it was Yi Lan or Zhen Qin, they had thought reaching the Foundation Establishment realm in their lifetime would be good enough. But now, with their opportunities, both had achieved divinity transformation. Considering only their age, they were undoubtedly rare geniuses, but they knew they were not true geniuses, so they remained humble and filled with reverence for immortal cultivation. Guan also fell into memories. Being able to help those around him live better lives gave him a great sense of accomplishment. Immortal cultivation should not be pursued without emotion, at least that was how he felt. As noon approached, it was finally Li Ya's turn. When the ancient sect called out Li Ya's name, a deafening cheer erupted throughout the Supreme Sect. The name of Divine Exotic City had long resounded across the world. Although Li Ya's talent wasn't as great as in Hao's, no one underestimated him because of his Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. Li Ya's return clearly meant to help the Supreme Sect contend for the first place in the Tianbang tournament. How could the disciples not cheer for him? Listening to the cheers from all around, a smile appeared on Guan's face. 100 years ago, before leaving the Mystic Valley, Li Ya had boasted that he would one day be famous worldwide. Today he achieved his ambition. I hope 1,000 years from now, you will stand at an even higher place and have more people cheering for you. Guan thought as he looked at Liya in the sky display. People's characters and pursuits differ, leading them to choose different paths. Guan desired longevity, and before reaching the other shore of longevity, he couldn't comfortably enjoy fame. Liya was different. He yearned for freedom and fame, walking a path completely different from Guan's. Guan did not think his path was wrong. After all, not everyone had the ability to steal lifespans like him. If he didn't have that ability, Guan would also have to go on the run, risking everything for opportunities. Guan eagerly anticipated seeing how far Liya could go, whether he could transcend heavenly destiny and achieve nirvana. Liya's ultimate lifespan had not increased until now. Within the Luotian floating city battle array, Liya stood proudly with a divine exotic immortal spirit perched on his shoulder. The small, pitch-black creature bared its teeth and claws at Liya's opponent, looking very cute. Liya's opponent was an old man in a Taoist robe with third-layer Nirvana realm cultivation. At this moment, facing Liya, the man's expression was solemn. He silently cursed the Supreme Sect for their shamelessness. Dealing with Liya, even if he won, it would not be a fair victory due to the significant gap in their cultivation levels. But if he lost, he would be utterly embarrassed. Why didn't they arrange a loose immortal opponent for Liya, who had an immortal path supreme treasure? Were they using him as a whetstone? The Taoist-robed old man took a deep breath, drew out his Dharma treasure, and prepared for battle. Liya said nothing and directly summoned the divine exotic city. The divine exotic city flew out of his body, rapidly expanding and transforming into a phantom that enveloped his figure, continuously occupying space inside the array. The appearance of the divine exotic city caused a clamor throughout the Supreme Sect. Most cultivators were seeing the divine exotic city for the first time, and they were very excited. With the divine exotic city visible, the battle's outcome was already predictable. Although it was a duel between Liya and the Taoist-robed old man, in reality, it was the divine exotic immortal spirit fighting on behalf of Liya. However, inside the divine exotic city, Liya would also bear some pressure. If he faced a wandering immortal in a prolonged battle, the divine exotic immortal spirit might be undefeated, but Liya could be shaken to death. Of course, there were no wandering immortals in the Tianbang tournament. The only wandering immortal had already been slain by Guan. The following battle had the spectators entirely appreciating the power of the divine exotic city. The endless swarms of divine soul demons surged out, their combined aura both awe-inspiring and terrifying. After Liya's victory, the atmosphere of the Tianbang tournament reached its peak. Guan saw Shenzhen still sketching the divine exotic city in front of his cave residence. A month passed quickly, and the participants in the Tianbang tournament had been reduced from 500 to 30. Some had a buy-in between, and the remaining 30, besides Liya, were at least in the Mahayana realm. Besides Liya, the most prominent were yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian of the Star Sea congregations. Yan Qitian was at the 9th layer of the loose immortal realm. Only yellow-robed Immortal Lord could match his true cultivation level. Late at night, in an estate within the inner sect city, Yan Qitian was sitting cross-legged inside, cultivating energy to recover his mana. He wore a close-fitting black robe embroidered with dragon and tiger patterns, looking very imposing. Suddenly, he heard footsteps and immediately opened his eyes to see a dark purple demonic shadow appear inside the room, startling him to his feet. "Who goes there?" Yan Qitian asked in a deep voice. The other party had managed to reach him without detection. The footsteps were clearly an intentional alert. Someone of such cultivation wouldn't make footsteps while walking. He carefully scrutinized the figure, suddenly realizing something. His expression changed slightly, and he said, "Could it be that you are Sword Venerable Fu Dao?" Guan's divine sense had already enveloped the estate. No one could spy on them. He spoke. "What is the Star Sea congregation's actual stance toward the 7 stars spirit realm?" Hearing this, Yan Qitian secretly relaxed as the other party had spoken, meaning they could talk. Having witnessed the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword, he didn't consider himself a match for Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Even wandering immortals couldn't take a single move from him. How could he resist? He didn't answer immediately, instead falling into deep thought. Guan cast a lifespan detection on him. Yan Qitian, loose immortal realm 9th layer 14590/25000/50,000. With a maximum lifespan of 50,000 years, he seemed to have the potential of a wandering immortal. Guan thought silently and wasn't in a hurry, waiting for Yan Qishan's response. In fact, he didn't need to ask. The Star Sea congregations had long been at war with the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. He was merely following protocol, examining the attitude of the Star Sea congregation's cultivators toward the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Yan Qitian took a deep breath and said, "To be honest, our grudge with the Seven Stars Spirit Realm has lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, reaching an irreconcilable stage. It won't be long before the Star Sea congregations launch a full-scale attack on the Seven Stars Spirit Realm." He organized his thoughts about the happenings on this continent, feeling that Sword Venerable Fudao was against the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. When Xian Tianyi of the Supreme Sect returned to the Star Sea congregations, he had spoken ill of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm everywhere. Guan said, "After the Tianbang tournament ends, return to the Star Sea congregations and collect all information on the Seven Stars Spirit Realm for me, especially regarding the cultivation realms of their cultivators. I only want the information. You won't be shortchanged. This is a personal deal between you and me, without involving the Star Sea congregations. You must not mention this to anyone." Hearing this, Yan Qitian was delighted. Was Sword Venerable Fudao going to deal with the Seven Stars Spirit Realm? He quickly agreed, "No problem. There's no need for a deal, senior. I'll collect the information for you for free. The Seven Stars Spirit Realm is not only your enemy, but ours as well." But it's best not to inform the Star Sea congregations about this, at least not for now." "Understood, senior." Guan immediately disappeared from the spot. Yan Qitian breathed a sigh of relief, feeling immense pressure facing Sword Venerable Fudao. It felt like walking on a knife's edge. Could it be that Sage Bailua was invited by the Seven Stars Spirit Realm? Yan Qitian pondered. He had heard of Sage Bailuo's deeds. This person rarely provoked others. His challenge to Sword Venerable Fudao before the Tianbang tournament was clearly out of enmity. Chapter 244. Are you really in the energy cultivation realm? The struggle for the top 30 in the Heavenly List tournament became even more intense than before. At this stage, opponents of the same realm required a long time to secure victory, unless there was a significant disparity in their minor realms. Days passed by. The number of cultivators coming to the Supreme Sect to watch the tournament grew, and the entire immortal cultivation world was discussing the Heavenly List tournament. Cultivators who displayed their talents in the tournament became famous worldwide, and were revered by countless cultivators. After half a month, 15 cultivators remained in the Heavenly List tournament. Xiao Dai from the Supreme Sect advanced again without contest, successfully entering the top 15, causing much discussion among the cultivators. Everyone could see that the Supreme Sect was protecting Xiao Dai, but his Qiao family came from the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, which made many hesitate to openly question him. Liya also successfully entered the top 15, but his condition was worrisome. The high-intensity combat had continuously inflicted internal injuries on his physical body, and fighting between mortal spirits and immortal spirits also harmed the soul. Everything has its pros and cons. Guan didn't help Liya too much, as he needed Liya to respect the power far beyond his own. Nevertheless, the Supreme Sect had succeeded, as there were no cultivators from the Tsangtian sect in the top 15. Apart from the Supreme Sect, the best rank among the three dynasties sects was 29th, held by a Taoist lord of the Tsangtian sect. With 2 cultivators from the Supreme Sect in the top 15, it solidified their position in the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. Another 10 days passed, and only 8 cultivators remained vying for the top spot in the Heavenly List. The Supreme Sect held 2 places, represented by Liya and Xiao Dai, who advanced by default. In the battle of the top 8, Xiao Dai fell in the first match, stopping at the 8th position. Liya, relying on Divine Exotic City, advanced to the top 4 but ultimately stopped at 4th place. His chi was exhausted, and he fainted on the battlefield after just summoning the army of divine soul demons. The disciples of the supreme sect weren't disappointed, but rather admired Leah. Leah, barely over 100 years old, shouldered the honor and mission of the entire sect. Reaching 4th place in the Heavenly List tournament was already commendable. In the previous Golden List tournament, Leah encountered in how early and didn't even make the top 500. This time, winning 3rd place, Guan thought he should have no regrets. As Guan had speculated, the final contenders for the top spot in the Heavenly List were the yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian. Their grand battle lasted 3 days and 3 nights, finally ending with Yan Qitian conceding defeat. The Supreme Sect remained bustling, and the tax revenue from various resource transactions delighted the sect leaders. The first Heavenly List tournament was highly successful. Other sects couldn't easily imitate such grandeur. Only until autumn did the Supreme Sect regain its peace. Before leaving, Leah visited Guan. They chatted for 2 ancient hours before Leah departed with grace. This time, he truly became a hero, gaining great renown. In the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties, his fame overshadowed both the yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian, because he was one of their own and due to his age and legendary experiences. These matters had little to do with Guan. The Heavenly List tournament was just a minor episode for him. What truly pleased him was that the Supreme Sect had obtained the storage bag before the heaven-cutting axe. It was the highest-grade storage bag, containing an immense amount of spirit stones. After calculating, he felt that the Supreme Sect had not deceived him, showing great sincerity. The disappearance of that storage bag also thrilled the higher-ups of the Supreme Sect, as they believed it signaled an even closer relationship with Sword Venerable Fu Dao. The Supreme Sect acted swiftly, and the roster of the Heavenly List tournament quickly spread throughout the immortal cultivation world, distributed freely. Through the roster, they learned about the origins and formidable cultivation levels of the Heavenly List's great cultivators. Unconsciously, the Supreme Sect's image became even grander in their minds. To summon so many immortals for combat, the Supreme Sect was undoubtedly the premier sect in the immortal cultivation world. In the Taitsung dynasty, Songzhou in the palace garden, Li Xiandao, clad in a dragon robe, sat at a table, perusing the Heavenly List and softly praised. The Supreme Sect is ruthless with this move. With this roster, the world will believe the Supreme Sect has the power to summon immortals. Sitting across from him was a woman, Jiang Qiong. Behind Jiang Qiong stood 2 figures, 2 ghost cultivators from the 9 Nether 13 Evil, while behind Li Xiandao stood 2 great cultivators, one of whom was Yi Luyan, who had once cultivated in Tianya Valley. Jiang Qiong chuckled. "Isn't your majesty the one who truly benefits? Prince Li Ya's name is renowned worldwide now. Who doesn't know he is your son?" Speaking of Li Ya, her feelings were complex. She and the ghost mother of Ephemera had wandered Divine Exotic City, nearly dying, only for a younger generation to obtain it. How could they not feel envious and dejected? The most important factor was, when she served as the great elder of the Supreme Sect's outer sect, she learned about Guan's connections. The person Guan was closest to was Li Ya. This boy was truly fortunate to have such a master with great chi fortune. Moreover, with her around, Guan could live peacefully even without leaving the valley. Thinking of this, Jiang Qiong's lips curled up. Li Xiandao set the Heavenly List aside, looked at Jiang Qiong, and said, "I have thoroughly understood the strength of the Juhua sect. However, even if I unify the world, the Juhua sect would find it very difficult to overthrow the Supreme Sect's status." Jiang Qiong responded, "There's no need to overthrow, just standing firm is enough." She had no intention of contending with the Supreme Sect. The true owner of the Juhua sect was Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Why compete? Besides, Guan was still in the Supreme Sect. Li Xiandao nodded and said, "Tianwei can no longer pose a threat. If you can help us conquer the great Jiang dynasty, I will definitely support the Juhua sect during my reign, and shape it into a picture of the righteous path." Li Xiandao still held the Juhua sect in high regard. The strength of this sect was quite extraordinary. Jiang Qiong nodded, and then continued to voice the needs of the Juhua sect. Li Xiandao patiently listened. The autumn breeze blew, scattering leaves that rose from the garden and drifted into the distance. Time flew by. A leaf fell, descending into Gu An's hand. Another autumn had come. Guan stood by the wooden railing, enjoying the scenery of Medicine Valley. 2 years had passed since the end of the Heavenly List tournament, and Yan Qitian had yet to return, causing Guan to wonder. Yang Jian suddenly approached, holding a long weapon, a 3-pointed 2-edged blade modeled after Yang Jian's weapon in Investiture of the Gods. Over 2 years, his aura had grown stronger. Even when hiding his cultivation, he appeared formidable and not to be trifled with. Master, a cultivator named Zhou Tongyu has come to the valley entrance, claiming to be your old acquaintance, Yang Jian said, glancing towards the distance. Zhou Tongyu was watching 2 servant disciples play Go, his curiosity piqued. Guan turned and looked at Zhou Tongyu, reflecting. He had killed Zhou Yu. How could he feel indifferent meeting Zhou Tongyu again? Luckily, Zhou Tongyu was unaware of this matter. He stepped towards Zhou Tongyu, with Yang Jian following closely behind. Recalling their first encounter decades ago, Zhou Tongyu had visited the Supreme Sect, sweeping through all disciples under 100 years old. Noticing Gu An's disciple Yi Yan practicing spear techniques, he offered guidance, injuring Yi Yan severely. Guan had to step in. They didn't know each other until they fought. Later, Guan wrote Supreme Immortal Venerable, basing the secondary male character on Zhou Tongyu. He didn't expect Zhou Tongyu to remember him after so many years. Soon Guan reached Zhou Tongyu, smiled and said, Taoist friend Zhou, long time no see. Zhou Tongyu turned to look at him, smiling. As arrogant as ever, Zhou Tongji's unparalleled pride couldn't be hidden. Coming to the Supreme Sect, how could I not visit you? Your Medicine Valley's scale truly impresses me. Remarkable, Zhou Tongyu laughed. The two began exchanging pleasantries. Zhou Tongyu came as a representative of the Jueshan sect for an exchange. He wasn't alone. A group of talented disciples accompanied him, though he acted independently. The reason he thought of Guan was due to an encounter with Gu An's disciple Yi Yin years ago. Your disciple's cultivation level may not be high, but his comprehension of spear techniques is remarkable. He has already grasped spear intent. Zhou Tongyu praised Yi Yan. Yang Jian was curious. Was Yi Yan his senior brother? As he listened, he realized Yi Yan was merely a servant disciple from the valley, and had not received genuine guidance from his master. He was a senior brother in name, but not the one his master always mentioned. The master was truly impressive, nurturing a genius with just a few tips. In the end, Zhou Tongji's gaze fixed on Guan, eyes burning. It's been years, shall we spar again? I will still suppress my cultivation to match yours, how about it? Among his peers, Zhou Tongyu had only lost to 2 people, LV Xian and Guan, the latter due to suppressed cultivation. Guan feigned hesitation. Suppressed cultivation? Then why not let me fight on behalf of my master? Yang Jian suddenly spoke up. Zhou Tongyu frowned, looking at Yang Jian. Just as he was about to refuse, his heart inexplicably trembled meeting Yang Jian's gaze. For some reason he thought of LV Xian, that peerless genius of the past. Well, let's see your power then, and whether you can match your master. Zhou Tongyu laughed, his eyes turning aggressive. The 2 disciples playing Go looked up in anticipation. Guan said, let's find an empty place. He patted the heads of the 2 disciples, refocusing their attention on the game. Zhou Tongyu and Yang Jian followed Guan walking along. Zhou Tongyu inquired about Yang Jian like an elder. Knowing Yang Jian was selected as a servant disciple, he felt relieved. He truly feared this one was a genius Guan recruited from a noble family. Ordinary servant disciples couldn't be geniuses, as the spirit root testing in great sects was reliable. 30 minutes later, outside Medicine Valley in a forest, Zhou Tongyu clutched his chest, his face full of shock, staring at Yang Jian, who remained in a kicking stance as if looking at a monster. Are you really in the energy cultivation realm? Zhou Tongyu couldn't help but ask. Yang Jian retracted his leg and said, we both didn't use spiritual power, so what realm doesn't matter, does it? Zhou Tongyu nearly spat blood at his words. He felt his chest bones were about to break. How could this guy's chi be so strong? Zhou Tongyu himself was a physical cultivator, and had even cultivated the evil-suppressing golden body. Chapter 245. Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal. Is it very powerful? Again, Zhou Tongyu gritted his teeth. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't be defeated by a mere servant disciple. It was said that the Supreme Sect's Qi fortune had been soaring in recent years. He didn't believe Qi fortune could defy the heavens to such an extent that even a randomly picked servant disciple could defeat him. What a joke. He was the #1 genius of the Zhou family. Yang Jian waved at him, and this gesture made him even angrier. The two quickly tangled again. Guan could see that Zhou Tongji's physique was special, but unfortunately he met Yang Jian. Yang Jian's physique was comparable to an ancient treasure body. According to the immortal-seeking Taoist, as long as an ancient treasure body grew smoothly, it would undoubtedly become an immortal king of an era. No matter how strong Zhou Tongji's aptitude was, it was still below the immortal path. 200 years ago, there were no legends of the Mahayana realm on this continent, and even the mystic heart realm was known to only a few cultivators. Zhou Tongji's evil-suppressing golden body, compared to Yang Jian's physique, was as different as heaven and earth and posed no threat. Their bodies clashed, fists and kicks met, and their attacks were fierce and as fast as a gale. The blood prison great saint was attracted over. He stood at the edge of the forest and slowly approached. In the end, Zhou Tongyu, in his desperation, accidentally used spiritual power, forcing Yang Jian back. Yang Jian steadied himself, shook his right hand and frowned. Facing his gaze, Zhou Tongji's face turned red instantly, and he said, "I admit defeat." Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's frown immediately relaxed. This was his first sparring match since following Guan in immortal cultivation. He cared deeply about the outcome. If he lost, wouldn't he be letting his master down? Guan laughed and said, "This kid has brute strength. How can a cultivator rely solely on qi?" It was an advantage for him. Winning or losing doesn't matter. Jianer quickly thanked the senior for his guidance. Yang Jian quickly cupped his hands in salute, sincerely expressing his thanks. The more sincere he was, the worse Zhou Tongji's expression became. Zhou Tongyu noticed a sneaky demon bull wandering in the distance and couldn't help but ask, "Is that bull yours?" Guan thought, "You don't want to spar with the bull, do you?" "Yes, how about it? What do you think of its appearance?" Guan asked with a proud tone, intending to skip over the sparring incident and save Zhou Tongyu some face. Zhou Tongyu pouted and said, "It looks decent, but its shape is a bit awkward." In the distance, the blood prison great saint widened his eyes. Just as he was about to curse, he was stopped by Gu An's glare and had to give up. Then Guan invited Zhou Tongyu to enter the valley for a chat, but he refused, saying he had other matters and had to leave after the spar. Guan didn't insist, watching him leave. Yang Jian scratched his head and asked, "Master, did I offend him?" Guan looked at Zhou Tongji's back and said, "It's all right. Letting him know early that there's always someone better is not a bad thing." Guan still had a good impression of Zhou Tongyu. This guy's actions may be harsh, but his ability to guide those casual cultivators shows a kind heart. The conflict with the Zhou family was hidden and shouldn't affect his relationship with Zhou Tongyu. Zhou Tongji's visit to the Supreme Sect this time was likely an attempt by the Zhou family to mend their relationship with the sect. There was no deep hatred between them. Perhaps they could let things go in the future. "Master, do you think my battle just now had any problems?" Yang Jian humbly asked for advice. Guan didn't hold back and began to critique. The blood prison great saint approached, looking pitifully at Guan. Only after Guan patted his ox head did his mood improve. "He's just a mortal. What are you fussing about?" Gu An's words made the blood prison great saint smile widely. The Jueshan sect was a righteous path sect within the Taizong dynasty. During the previous demon disaster, they had also given their all, maintaining a good relationship with the Supreme Sect. This time, the genius disciples of the Jueshan sect came to spar with those of the Supreme Sect, causing quite a stir. Pan An's Supreme Immortal Venerable was still very famous within the Supreme Sect. It was no secret that Zhou Tongyu in the book was the same Zhou Tongyu from the Jueshan sect. So many people paid attention to his performance. Zhou Tongyu swept through the Supreme Sect's disciples, showcasing the brilliance of decades past until he met Wu Ju. Without suppressing their cultivation levels, relying on their skills alone, Zhou Tongyu couldn't defeat Wu Ju, solidifying Wu Ju's reputation as a genius. Wu Ju was a genius nurtured by the Supreme Sect after and Hao, with extremely fast cultivation speed. He had once been a golden list genius. Now, having defeated Zhou Tongyu, he dispelled any remaining doubts and made the Supreme Sect's disciples more hopeful for him. On the night of the full moon, LV Baitian and Guan were drinking together in a room. Wu Ju sees you as his only brother. Liya considers you the most important person. Zhang Buku regards you as his only elder, and in-house sister apprentices under you. Ji Xiaoyu, from the Ji family, grew up with you. Even Gu Yu, the son of the Gu Zong, has a good relationship with you. You little brat, and you still say you don't have the ambition to be the next sect leader? LV Baitian glared as he spoke. He truly admired Guan, who could always make friends with geniuses and form excellent relationships. Of course, he could understand why. Guan's genuine nature allowed him to form such good connections. Because of this, he admired Guan, as it wasn't easy to treat everyone genuinely. People tend to favor the promising. As for him, even if he often reminded himself to treat all disciples equally, he wouldn't give a second glance to an average disciple passing by. Guan laughed and said, "Heaven has been kind to me. I honestly don't want to be the sect leader. Nowadays, the Supreme Sect is full of geniuses. Do we still lack a leader? No matter how many geniuses, we can't choose recklessly. The sect leader must command respect. Can my current cultivation level command respect? Before I die, I'll transfer my cultivation to you. Then you'll directly achieve the mystic heart realm. By the time you're dying, you'll have reincarnated 10 times already." "Oh, so you are retreating to advance, wanting me to transfer my cultivation to you sooner?" The two began to banter, and Guan wasn't interested in his cultivation. "Would I, a carefree primordial immortal, need your unification realm cultivation level? Just one breath of spiritual energy is stronger than all your life's cultivation." That night, after LV Baitian left, Guan quietly departed as well. Yan Qitian had finally arrived. Underneath the night sky, Yan Qitian rode a cloud, gliding past the full moon, looking like an immortal. He was pondering how to face Sword Venerable Fudao. Though he was working for him, the thought of facing the Sword Venerable brought him immense pressure. At that moment, a hand suddenly pressed on Yan Qishan's shoulder, causing his heart to stop. With a roar, the cloud beneath his feet dispersed, and he fell into the forest below. When his feet touched the ground, his heart was in his throat. His mana was surprisingly restrained, leaving him unable to move. What terrifying suppression! For the first time he felt such pressure, and fear began to grow in his heart. Fortunately, the hand on his shoulder released him, and he quickly turned to see Sword Venerable Fudao, immediately bowing in respect. "Senior, wasn't that a bit too?" Yan Qitian couldn't help but say, trying to calm himself. He suddenly recalled a recent book circulating in the Star Sea congregations about Sword Venerable Fudao. It mentioned that the Sword Venerable would press on someone's shoulder before killing them. He thought it was just Xian Tianyi's whimsicality, but it turned out to be true. Wait, could Sword Venerable Fudao be planning to kill him? Dispose of him after use? Yan Qishan's expression changed drastically as he trembled, completely losing the demeanor of a loose immortal and second rank on the heavenly list. As the saying goes, the higher you stand, the more you fear. Being suppressed so easily by Sword Venerable Fudao, he shuddered at the thought of Fudao's unimaginable cultivation level. How could he not be terrified? Guan spoke, "Where is it?" Yan Qitian hurriedly took out a scroll from his storage ring, offering it with both hands, nervously replying, "This is collected through the power of my family and master. Though not entirely clear, it should give a general understanding of the 7 stars spirit realm's strength." Guan made a gesture, and the scroll entered his hand. His divine sense penetrated it, dispelling all the restrictions within. Yan Qitian nervously stood aside, fearing that Sword Venerable Fudao might suddenly decide to kill him. He didn't dare to flee, as it would be useless. It was better to try to make a good impression. After a while, Guan looked at him and said, "You did well. Our transaction hasn't been leaked, right?" Yan Qitian quickly replied, "Only my master knows. I mentioned a mysterious senior with a grudge against the 7-star spirit realm wanting information. My master didn't press further. Except for me, no one knows it's you." Guan nodded. Yan Qitian added, "Senior, dealing with the 7-star spirit realm can't be done rashly. If you are willing, why not join forces with our Star Sea congregations? From the information I've gathered, the cave master of 1-star cave is a heaven and earth flying immortal who achieved it 50,000 years ago. Even our sect hierarch isn't confident in defeating him." Heaven and earth flying immortal, are they strong? Guan's question left Yan Qitian speechless. Are they strong? Yan Qitian opened his mouth, suddenly realizing something. Could it be that the other party wasn't unaware of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, but simply didn't fear any heaven and earth flying immortal? His gaze changed instantly. Looking at Guan, he felt an urge to kneel on the spot. "You did well. Tonight's conversation must not be mentioned to anyone. If you dare to speak of it, no matter where you hide, I will find you, and no one can stop me." Guan suddenly spoke, scaring Yan Qitian, who immediately bent over and promised. After he finished speaking, Guan stepped up to him and placed 2 fingers on his forehead, making him stiffen and his eyes go vacant. Under the moonlit night in a courtyard, Ji Xiaoyu was meditating in a pavilion, continuously casting spells, and cultivating some sort of cultivation technique. A figure walked in from the yard, a middle-aged man in a large robe with a stern countenance. He stopped before the pavilion, gazing at Ji Xiaoyu and sighing, "Xiaoyu, have you still not made up your mind?" Ji Xiaoyu did not respond. The primordial Taoist talisman truly is extraordinary, but our Ji family can't protect it. Moreover, now that the Ji family has allied with the 7-star spirit realm, we can only choose to trust them, the middle-aged man said earnestly. Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes and looked at him calmly, her gaze making him feel uneasy. Chapter 246 Heavenly Eye Prophecy. Ji Qianquan felt uneasy under Ji Xiaoyu's gaze. Ever since a certain point, he began to feel like he couldn't see through his own daughter. Despite his higher cultivation level, he always felt that his daughter was dangerous. He even suspected that she had been possessed, but after examining her, there were no signs of possession. Ji Xiaoyu slowly spoke. "Father, do you know the origin of the primordial Taoist talisman?" Ji Qianquan frowned and said, "The primordial Taoist talisman is a legacy left by ancient immortals. They choose their master through reincarnation. Those who possess the primordial Taoist talisman have extraordinary talent. With every major breakthrough, they will receive a legacy. Xiaoyu, it was I who introduced you to the primordial Taoist talisman back then. I naturally understand its importance. However, the primordial Taoist talisman is not unique in this world. The development of the Ji family has already hit a bottleneck. We need a force like the 7-star spirit realm to open a path overseas. Sacrificing for the family will not treat you unfairly." Ji Xiaoyu stood up and looked at Ji Qianquan from within the pavilion. The moonlit night was like water, and the cold wind was bleak. Ji Qianquan felt irritated by Ji Xiaoyu's gaze. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Ji Xiaoyu say, "The primordial Taoist talisman in my body gave me a heavenly eye. Do you know what my heavenly eye sees?" Looking at Ji Xiaoyu's extremely cold face, Ji Qianquan felt inexplicably uneasy. He pressed on. "What did you see?" Ji Xiaoyu stepped forward, circled around the stone table, and walked outside the pavilion. As she moved closer to Ji Qianquan, her momentum surged with each step. Her expression was as cold as an immortal in the skies, and her eyes were fixed on Ji Qianquan. I saw the 7-star spirit realm shatter, with countless corpses lying around, blood flowing like a river. I saw the Ji family reaching its end, with the Qilin wailing in sorrow. I saw you, father, your head separated from your body, dying with unfulfilled wishes. Ji Xiaoyu's voice was not loud, nor did her tone drop, but every word shook Ji Qianquan to his core. The primordial Taoist talisman, a result of ancient immortals' cultivation, contained an unknown power. The Ji family was also unaware of the power held by Ji Xiaoyu's primordial Taoist talisman. Ji Xiaoyu stopped on the steps and looked at Ji Qianquan. If the Ji family only wanted me to offer the primordial Taoist talisman, I might not refuse. But you all want me dead. How do you expect me to agree? Ji Qianquan remained silent. He wanted to say something, but looking into Ji Xiaoyu's eyes, he felt that any words would be futile. No matter how you ramble, this matter is settled. You do not have much time left. Ji Qianquan left, flicking his sleeves. Watching his back, Ji Xiaoyu did not get angry. Instead, a look of disdain appeared on her face. Dawn. Yan Qitian opened his eyes and found himself still in the woods. The figure of Sword Venerable Fudao was nowhere to be seen. He recalled the inherited memories in his mind, his expression complex. Breaking path divine light. He hadn't expected Sword Venerable Fudao to bestow an inheritance of divine skills upon him. Although he had previously stated he needed no reward, for Sword Venerable Fudao to do this demonstrated a conduct that he greatly respected. At the same time, he understood that if he publicized this matter, Sword Venerable Fudao would not let him off lightly. Sword Venerable Fudao was a cultivator, who clearly distinguished between gratitude and grievances, always keeping his promises. He sensed that the breaking path divine light was highly unusual. It was undoubtedly a rare and great opportunity. After much contemplation, he decided to visit the Supreme Sect. After all, Sword Venerable Fudao was in seclusion within the Supreme Sect. Building a good relationship with the Supreme Sect was also a way to show his respect to Sword Venerable Fudao. Moreover, he felt this might be an opportunity for him. Perhaps, with the help of the Supreme Sect, his path of immortal cultivation could proceed more smoothly. With that thought, he flew toward the Supreme Sect. On the other side, in the Third Medicine Valley, Guan was leading the disciples in exercises. The sight of over 900 disciples practicing together was quite impressive. Even Yang Jian was practicing earnestly. The autumn air was crisp, and the spiritual energy was abundant. Guan was in a great mood, a smile beaming on his face. Seeing his sunny disposition, the disciples' spirits also lifted. After the exercises, Guan didn't leave but instead dragged Xiaochuan to play chess. The other disciples wanted to watch, but he refused. Once seated, Xiaochuan eagerly said, "Senior brother, I won't go easy on you. Recently, I've had 17 consecutive wins in chess." He arranged the black and white pieces on the board and made the first move. Guan followed with a move of his own and asked with a smile, "How is your practice going recently? Have you been taking the elixirs I gave you on time?" Xiaochuan was only 3 years younger than him, and was nearing his lifespan limit. Guan planned to help him release his cultivation level in the next 2 years. Xiaochuan, unlike Liya or Zhenqin, who ventured into the immortal cultivation world, had little ambition and only helped Guan manage medicinal herbs. Yet in Guan's heart, he held considerable significance. In this lifetime, the one who had accompanied him the longest was Xiaochuan. Their relationship had long since become like family. Xiaochuan casually replied, "It's all right. I've been taking all the elixirs." His focus was on winning the chess game to impress his senior brother. Each time he moved, Guan would make his move quickly, initially not paying much attention. But as time went on, Guan's speed in playing brought him immense pressure. What made it worse was that Guan kept expressing concern for him, forcing him to respond, which left him increasingly agitated and frustrated. Of course, Guan noticed Xiaochuan's frustration. It was intentional on his part. Watching Xiaochuan become frazzled, Guan found it highly amusing. Suddenly, Guan asked, "Xiaochuan, would you like to leave the mountain to marry and have children?" Startled by this, Xiaochuan immediately looked up in panic. "Senior brother, do you want to get rid of me?" Guan rolled his eyes at him and said, "Experiencing various pleasures in life is a must. I'm just suggesting you marry and have children. If you want to come back later, you're welcome anytime. Of course, if you don't like women, that's fine too." Xiaochuan was already 138 years old, and had never experienced romantic relationships before. As his senior brother, Guan felt it was his duty to help him. Although Guan himself had not experienced romantic relationships in this lifetime, he had tasted it in his previous one, so it wasn't intriguing for him. But for Xiaochuan it was different. Xiaochuan didn't even read Green Hero Travelogue, so Guan was somewhat worried about him. Xiaochuan's face turned crimson. Isn't this inappropriate? What's inappropriate about it? When the time comes, they'll give you money. You can buy a house deed when you leave the mountain, and matchmakers will naturally come knocking. Experiencing a couple of decades in a normal life might not be a bad thing, Guan said softly, placing another chess piece. This move made Xiaochuan's face turn green. Shameless. Playing chess was just playing chess. What was with these underhanded tactics? Xiaochuan's thoughts were disrupted, but he was moved by Guan's words. In fact, Guan had a deeper consideration for suggesting he leave the mountain, which was to see if experiencing worldly life could lead Xiaochuan to path enlightenment. Path enlightenment was very mysterious. Even a carefree primordial immortal couldn't force someone to achieve it at will. The reason path enlightenment could alter one's lifespan was because it gained the essence of heaven and earth. Human life was inherently determined by heavenly destiny. Thus, with Guan's relentless persuasion, Xiaochuan was defeated utterly in chess, ending in frustration. Guan stood up and said with a smile, "Think it over carefully. Whenever you make up your mind, come to me. Don't worry, we will always be brothers. As long as I'm here, I'll protect you for life." Hearing these words, Xiaochuan's spirits lifted. He turned to look, and Guan had already walked away. For some reason, he felt that his senior brother's arrangement was like preparing for his own impending end. It seemed his senior brother still cared about him a lot. A smile appeared on Xiaochuan's face. Guan also smiled, secretly thinking, "This little one still wants to beat me? Come back after practicing for another 800 years." That day, Yin Qitian visited the Supreme Sect, causing a stir among its top leaders. LV Baitian personally received him, and they had extensive discussions. 3 days later, Yin Qitian left. The Supreme Sect announced that Yin Qitian, second on the heavenly rankings, had become a guest elder of the Supreme Sect. This news excited everyone in the Supreme Sect. It said that Yin Qitian left behind many cultivation techniques and spells, promising that should the Supreme Sect face difficulties, they could summon him with a magic artifact. To show their gratitude, the Supreme Sect began to publicize Yin Qitian's deeds, aiming to make him the top cultivator of the Supreme Sect. Yin Qitian's involvement shook the immortal cultivation world, putting pressure on various sects and congregations to engage in diplomacy with the Supreme Sect. However, the Zhangtian sect remained silent, with low morale. Autumn passed into winter, the snow blanketing everything. Mystic Valley. Guan stood by the window, appreciating the snowy view. His divine sense enveloped the continent. Dealing with the 7 stars spirit realm couldn't be done forcefully, mainly because the realm was too vast. With 5 other caves overseas, he wanted to capture them all, but it was challenging. It was easy to alert other overseas factions or great cultivators, so he planned to first eliminate the 6 stars cave and 7 stars cave on the continent. Guan could detect their minor heaven and earth, waiting for a disturbance in the 7 stars spirit realm before making his move. Since the appearance of Divine Exotic City, many oceanic cultivators had been traveling on the continent, including the Star Sea congregations, frequently clashing with the 7 stars spirit realm. Guan intended to strike the 7 stars spirit realm during a major upheaval caused by the Star Sea congregations, eradicating their key cultivators, ending the realm's presence on the continent. By then, the Star Sea congregations would likely advance north, pressuring the 7 stars spirit realm to focus away from the continent. Today, Guan suddenly sensed a peculiar power brewing in the 7 stars spirit realm, piquing his curiosity. He saw the essence of that power, further heightening his anticipation for the upcoming developments. Indeed, this world is full of hidden talents, so many secret forces, Guan thought to himself as he turned and sat back at his desk, picking up the supreme secret records. Reading many books eventually reveals what is classic. Classics are those that never grow tiresome. He turned page after page, like witnessing the rings of a tree. 3 years quickly passed by. Guan's lifespan once again surpassed tens of millions of years. On this day he closed the Supreme Secret records, stored it in his storage bag, then stood up and walked out of the attic. The summer sun was scorching, insects incessantly buzzing, the sunlight shining on Guan, reminding him of the scene when he first entered Mystic Valley at 15. He fixed his gaze, seeing Lu Jujia instructing newly arrived servant disciples. In Guan's eyes, Lu Jujia's back gradually merged with Zhang Chunkius. 100 years had passed, and though things had changed, some marks remained. Guan smiled and began contemplating which magic artifact to use in the upcoming war. Simply crushing with mana seemed too dull. Chapter 247. Reincarnation does not permit you either. Thinking it over, Guan decided to use the Heavenly Residence Sword. The Heavenly Residence Sword was a divine sword gifted to him by Li Ye, one of the 3 emperor swords of the Taizong dynasty. Although the emperor sword was not very useful to him now, the elegant form of the Heavenly Residence Sword made it worth using. Guan also thought of Lu Lingjun, who wielded 2 swords in battle, and felt that he could try using a 2-handed sword as well. He had no pressure dealing with the 6 Stars Cave and 7 Stars Cave of the 7-Star Spirit Realm. Guan went downstairs and made his way to Lu Jujia, who quickly saluted him and introduced 2 new disciples. The 2 servant disciples were very nervous in front of Guan, not like Li Ye and Meng Lang, who were impatient with Cheng Xiandan and Zhang Chuanqiu back in the day. The current status of the supreme sect in the Taizong dynasty was far beyond what it was 100 years ago, now being the top sect in the continent's immortal cultivation world, second only to the legendary Holy Land. Guan did not adhere strictly to the rules but instead gently encouraged the 2 new disciples, leaving them pleasantly surprised. After he left, the 2 disciples were filled with anticipation for their upcoming life in the Mystic Valley. Guan did not head to the 3rd Medicine Valley, but walked towards the mountains and forests outside the valley. He appreciated the scenery along the way, and realized it had been many years since he last experienced the surroundings of the Mystic Valley on foot. Back then he raced around the mountains with Xiaochuan, and life was carefree. To feel such nostalgia after just over 100 years, imagine what it will be like in 10,000 years. Guan suddenly thought, then adjusted his emotions, preparing to invade the 7-Star Spirit Realm. Today the 7-Star Spirit Realm was about to undergo a significant change, presenting the perfect opportunity for him. Sunlight poured into the courtyard where Ji Qianquan and numerous members of the Ji family stood, chatting and laughing. A number of cultivators floated in the distant sky, each like an immortal, showcasing their unique styles. This Ji mansion, located atop a solitary mountain, covered an area of over 10 miles. Thick fog swirled below the mountain, resembling a vast ocean, with peaks emerging from the sea of clouds, akin to immortal Taoist practice grounds. The sea of clouds stretched endlessly, as if this place truly was above the 9 heavens, with the sun directly overhead. Ji Hantian leaned against the courtyard door with his arms crossed in front of his chest and eyes closed. Judging by his furrowed brows, his mood was not good. Ji Qianquan came to Ji Hantian's side smiling. "Grandpa, the auspicious hour is near. Why don't you go outside to greet the Luo family?" Ji Hantian opened his eyes, snorted coldly, and left with a flick of his sleeve. Ji Qianquan did not get angry. He knew Ji Hantian had objections regarding the 7-Star Spirit Realm, but since it concerned the family's prosperity, Ji Hantian would choose to endure. Now that the Supreme Sect was thriving, the Ji family had stopped insisting on Ji Hantian leaving the sect. In fact, they started to support him again, seeing another avenue as beneficial. Ji Qianquan turned back to see Ji Xiaoyu's door adorned with joyous decorations. The sight eased his uneasy heart slightly. Every time he thought of Ji Xiaoyu's words that night, he felt restless and upset. Dong! The loud sound of a gong echoed through the heavens and the earth. A beam of golden light swept in from the horizon, rapidly landing in front of the Ji mansion's gate. The sounds of hooves and roars came from afar as 9 white horses drew a golden carriage along the golden path. 2 female cultivators resembling fairies leaned out of the carriage windows, holding baskets of flowers, and scattered petals continuously. The petals drifted with the wind, quickly dissipating into magpies that circled in the sky. The cultivators from nearby mountains flew out of their mansions, and some jumped out of the fog below, all wanting to watch the excitement. What a grand spectacle! As expected of the Luo family. I heard Luo Yetian has broken through to the Mahayana realm. Is it true? It should be true. Entering the Mahayana realm after just over 500 years is indeed terrifying talent. Ji Xiaoyu of the Ji family is not simple either. It's said she was born with a primordial Taoist talisman and great fortunes. She is a perfect match for Luo Yetian. With the Ji family allied with the Luo family, they are set to rise. If they produce an immortal, it would be even more remarkable. They might even cultivate in the 5 Stars Cave in the future. Each mountain belonged to a different family, but these families were at the lower end of the 7 Stars spirit realm, incomparable to the Luo family, hence their envy of the Ji family's fortune. At the end of the Golden Path, numerous cultivators rode on magic artifacts, flying in a grand procession that stirred the clouds. They swiftly landed by the Golden Path, stretching all the way to the Ji Mansion's gate. Glancing around, there were at least 1,000 cultivators, all with imposing auras and dressed in golden robes. The 9-horse-drawn carriage halted at the gate. The curtain opened, and an imposing man in a red robe stepped out. He was tall and handsome, with long hair tied in a lotus jade crown, resembling a star-lord descended from the heavens. His eyes shone brightly as if they contained the universe. Seeing him disembark, the Ji family cultivators hurriedly stepped forward to greet him. Luo Yetian smiled and asked, "Sister Yu, are you ready?" He had been busy in seclusion, only meeting Ji Xiaoyu once. Sensing the innate aura of the primordial Taoist talisman within her, and admiring her exceptional beauty, he had his family propose the marriage. He barely needed to lift a finger, just one word from him was enough. And as he expected, the Ji family agreed without hesitation. He chose this year precisely because he had just reached the Mahayana realm. In previous years, his mind was solely focused on advancing to the Mahayana realm, and Ji Xiaoyu was merely a thought, not worth occupying his entire mind. An elder of the Ji family smiled and said, "She is ready and can depart any time." Luo Yetian nodded. Our Luo family has already invited all the major families from the 6 Stars Cave and the 7 Stars Cave, and even some seniors from the 5 Stars Cave to attend. This wedding will surely be grand. Rest assured, we are one family now. He spoke appropriately without arrogance, making the Ji family cultivators smile and thank him repeatedly. He looked up at the Ji mansion, anticipation showing in his eyes. He could already sense the aura of the primordial Taoist talisman. Meanwhile, in the courtyard where Ji Xiaoyu resided, Ji Qianquan urged her from outside the door. "The auspicious hour has arrived. Don't keep the Luo family waiting," Ji Qianquan said, knocking on the door. The door opened at that moment. Ji Xiaoyu, clad in a phoenix crown and cloud robe, stepped out accompanied by 2 female cultivators. The veil covered her face, revealing only a snow-white chin, and her hands were clasped before her stomach, comporting herself with grace. Seeing she was already in her wedding attire, Ji Qianquan heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "Xiaoyu, what you worry about might not happen. There may be a turnaround. The Luo family has even invited great cultivators from the 5 Stars Cave. They might be able to help you," Ji Qianquan said softly. Ji Xiaoyu passed by him, stopping suddenly. "Crossing this door, our father-daughter bond ends." Ji Qianquan frowned. "What nonsense are you talking about? I will always be your father, and the Ji family will always be your home." Ji Xiaoyu said nothing more, stepping forward. Accompanied by the 2 female disciples of the Ji family, she left the courtyard. Ji Qianquan watched her back and exhaled deeply. Over the past 3 years, he had feared any mishap in this marriage, so he had been guarding Ji Xiaoyu closely. He quickly followed, not resting assured until he delivered Ji Xiaoyu to the Luo family himself. Outside the mansion gate, a disciple hurriedly came out to inform the Ji family's higher-ups that Ji Xiaoyu was coming, causing smiles to bloom on everyone's faces. They had long heard of Ji Xiaoyu's dissatisfaction, but such was the fate of noble families, where marriages served the family's interests. During the wait, a cultivator of the Ji family asked Luo Yetian about the rumored world-destroying sea tide's validity. Luo Yetian pondered and said, "I heard it upon emerging from seclusion as well. Such rumors have spread across the seas, but the truth is uncertain. At least 100 years from now, it seems unlikely. Beyond that, no one can say." The surrounding cultivators began to murmur, discussing the matter. After a while, many cultivators from the Ji family walked out of the gate, with Ji Xiaoyu in the center, surrounded like the moon among stars. Upon seeing her, Luo Yetian smiled. Just then, Ji Xiaoyu stopped and tore off the red veil from her head, igniting it in her palm until it quickly turned to ashes. Her expression was icy cold, eyes fixed on Luo Yetian, with a faint smile on her lips. Luo Yetian felt uncomfortable under her gaze and frowned. "What do you mean by this?" The surrounding Luo family cultivators also frowned. Was Ji Xiaoyu about to oppose this marriage? "Quickly bring another red veil," the clan leader of the Ji family ordered, looking at Ji Qianquan with a dissatisfied expression. Before Ji Qianquan could speak, Ji Xiaoyu soared into the sky, hovering 100 meters above. The Luo family cultivators didn't stop her, curious about her intentions. Did she plan to cancel the marriage in the 7-star spirit realm? A red pattern appeared on Ji Xiaoyu's forehead, the runes of the primordial Taoist talisman. As the power of the talisman surged out, her aura transformed drastically. "You mortals disturb my rebirth process, how utterly vexing," Ji Xiaoyu said, frowning slightly. Her voice resonated through the skies, her tone coldly indifferent, making the Ji family cultivators find her unrecognizable. Luo Yetian, sensing something, ascended to her level and asked suspiciously, "Who exactly are you?" One by one, the Luo family cultivators appeared in the air, surrounding Ji Xiaoyu. The sky and sea of clouds churned, forming thunderclouds. A towering figure appeared within those clouds, like a giant god standing in outer heaven, overlooking the world. Ji Xiaoyu did not look up but calmly gazed at Luo Yetian. "Some karmic entanglements are beyond your reach, disturbing my cultivation. Even reincarnation will not pardon you." Boom! An immense pressure erupted from Ji Xiaoyu, and golden flames emanated from her forehead, rapidly forming a 100-meter-tall silhouette behind her. The figure looked exactly like her, but radiated an aura surpassing the Mahayana realm. Ji Xiaoyu raised her hand, grasping at the sky. The phantom behind her mirrored her movements, shattering the thunderclouds with one hand. Within her palm, an awe-inspiring figure appeared, the same one from earlier, now filled with fear. Before he could speak, golden flames engulfed him. In an instant he was incinerated, leaving no trace behind. Chapter 248. Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal, One Sword to Sever. Impudent. Seeing Ji Xiaoyu summon a phantom that directly annihilated the great cultivator of the Luo family, the other Luo family cultivators were instantly enraged. They each brought out their own Dharma treasures, prepared to kill her on the spot. Luo Yetian was about to speak when the phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu suddenly erupted with golden flames, sweeping in all directions. The cultivators from all directions were too late to dodge, and could only instinctively use spiritual power and mana to resist. As the golden flames swept past, the entire world suddenly changed. The sky turned crimson, and countless meteors fell from the distance. Each meteor stirred up a shockwave, creating a breathtaking spectacle. Ji Xiaoyu stood high above, a trace of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth, but her brows did not knit together, remaining indifferent. The phantom behind her ignited with golden flames, and the Tao patterns on its forehead flickered with a strange light. She raised her right hand to her mouth, muttering something, and layers of golden glyphs burst forth from her body, expanding rapidly to dominate the entire sky in less than 3 breaths. "I didn't expect the primordial Taoist talisman to contain will. I wonder which ancient predecessor it is that we have disturbed." An elderly voice rang out as an old man in a gray robe appeared, blocking in front of Luo Yetian. Luo Yetian quickly raised his hand to salute him, his demeanor respectful. The old man in the gray robe did not turn around, his gaze fixed intently on the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu. A loose immortal is not enough. Ji Xiaoyu's voice rang out once more. The gray-robed old man's face changed dramatically, and he immediately took out a jade staff. Boom! A horrifying wave of golden flames rushed towards him. The gray-robed old man used his mana to resist, but Luo Yetian behind him still felt the searing pain. This pain was not just on the surface. Even his soul felt the agony. How is this possible? Who exactly is she? Luo Yetian thought in disbelief. The Ji family members below were equally astonished. Was Ji Xiaoyu's primordial Taoist talisman really containing such terrifying power? Ji Qianquan suddenly remembered what Ji Xiaoyu had told him 3 years ago, and a chill ran down his spine. The gray-robed old man, possessing loose immortal cultivation, couldn't withstand the vast golden flames. Blood spots appeared on his skin, as did on Luo Yishan's behind him. The other Luo family great cultivators attacked from different directions, but their mana quickly dissolved as it approached the golden flames, unable to harm Ji Xiaoyu. The mountains trembled as if they were about to collapse, startling the cultivators in their caves. More and more people flew into the sky, looking at Ji Xiaoyu in disbelief. Under their gaze, the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu raised its right hand, drawing cracks across the sky with its fingertips. When her hand stopped, the space along the path shattered instantly, golden flames coiling around the edges of the space rift, forming a gigantic halo. The blood spilling from Ji Xiaoyu's mouth increased, but her eyes remained calm. The golden phantom behind her drew a giant golden fan from the halo, its surface shaped like maple leaves, covered with glyphs, as if hiding numerous worlds. As the giant golden fan descended, the world began to collapse, space twisted and shattered, clouds dispersed, and giant peaks crumbled. The cultivators residing in this land scattered like headless flies, in extreme panic. Retreat with the people. The gray-robed old man's voice was low and solemn as he resisted the golden flames, having transformed into a man of blood. Luo Yetian behind him was slightly better, but his skin also began to ulcerate. Luo Yetian gritted his teeth, just about to turn and leave. At that moment, the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu suddenly swung the fan. A wave of burning flame swept across half of the sky, vaporizing all the cultivators along the way. Gray-robed old man and Luo Yetian couldn't escape. As the flame wave passed, both of them turned into light stars, their bodies and souls annihilated, scattering like falling sparks. This scene left the Ji family cultivators and other clan cultivators stunned and terrified. Ji Xiaoyu tilted her head, looking down at Ji Qianquan. The Ji family cultivators were extremely tense, not daring to meet her gaze. Everyone within the Ji family knew that the family had planned to sacrifice her. She didn't truly wish to marry. With so many dead from the Luo family, how will the Ji family live in the future? Ji Xiaoyu's icy voice reached the ears of the Ji family members. Ji Qianquan, Ji Hantian, and the others felt a chill rise from their hearts, spreading throughout their bodies. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes began to fill with blood, quickly turning blood red. Xiaoyu, what exactly do you want to do? Ji Hantian quickly asked. Apart from the Luo family, no other families had suffered from the golden flames, making other clan cultivators silently sigh in relief. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes, now blood red, raised to look towards the horizon. At the end of the world appeared a massive black rift from which silhouettes flew out, rapidly approaching. These figures all had an aura stronger than the previous gray-robed old man. A horrifying killing intent locked onto Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu raised her right hand, and the golden phantom behind her mirrored the motion with its giant golden fan. At that moment, a figure appeared before her. Her eyes widened in surprise, showing clear shock despite the blood covering them. Guan, wielding the 9 extremes yin-yang body, stood before Ji Xiaoyu. He held a sword in each hand, one being the heavenly residence sword, the other the Qinghong sword, both shrouded in dark purple demonic qi, hiding their true forms. Facing the approaching great cultivators from afar, Guan casually swung his swords. The sword light illuminated the world. A streak of sword qi, like a white rainbow, swept across the sky. The great cultivators of the 7 stars spirit realm attacking Ji Xiaoyu were swallowed by the sword qi before they could even see Guan's form, turned to ash and vanished. You have successfully taken 590 years of lifespan from Luo Ku, 7th level of loose immortal realm. You have successfully taken 387 years of lifespan from Daoist Shenlan, 9th level of loose immortal realm. You have successfully taken 1032 years of lifespan from Lu Chongfeng, 7th level of loose immortal realm. One by one, notifications appeared before Guan's eyes. Guan turned to look at the devastated Ji Xiaoyu, deeply alarmed. The power of this primordial Taoist talisman was astonishing. It was already comparable to the wandering immortal realm. However, Ji Xiaoyu was struggling to withstand it. Her life force was fading rapidly. He spoke, "Withdraw your divine skill." He used the voice of Sword Venerable Fudao, hoarse and steady. Ji Xiaoyu smiled and said, "Reincarnation has begun, and it cannot be reversed." Guan's gaze shifted to the golden phantom behind her. He could see that the soul aura of the golden phantom was identical to Ji Xiaoyu's. This power must have originated from somewhere else, summoned rather than hidden within her. He tried a lifespan detection on the golden phantom but found nothing. "Sword Venerable, have you come specifically to assist me?" Ji Xiaoyu suddenly asked. Guan replied, "I came to annihilate the 7-star spirit realm." Ji Xiaoyu's eyes bled as she smiled. "This life was too short, Sword Venerable. If we are fated, we shall meet again in the future." Her body suddenly burst forth with golden light, and then scattered. A golden talisman appeared, absorbing the surrounding golden light into itself, and then quickly merged into the golden phantom. Guan's gaze fell on the giant fan in the hands of the golden phantom, feeling the terrifying power within it. This treasure was no weaker than the divine exotic city, and it wasn't even a physical object, just manifested power. The golden phantom swung its fan, and an overwhelming wave of golden flames soared overhead, breaking through the heavens. The terrifying spiritual energy surged in from the minor heaven and earth outside. A burst of intense light erupted from the distant darkness. A presence beyond a wandering immortal realm approaching, extremely fast. Heaven and earth flying immortal. This heaven and earth flying immortal raised his palm to strike, intending to annihilate the golden phantom with one blow. The golden phantom immediately raised its fan to defend. Rumble, the heavens trembled, and space collapsed and twisted. Guan stood beneath the fan, looking up at the giant golden fan, filled with curiosity about this treasure. "Sword Venerable, my power won't hold for long." Ji Xiaoyu's voice sounded tired. The golden phantom's arm trembled, the fan moving closer to Guan. Unable to withstand the power of the heaven and earth flying immortal, Guan focused, using lifespan detection on the heaven and earth flying immortal. Earth Gang Divine Lord. First layer of Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm 129080/23000/250000. A Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal who had lived for 12,000 years. Guan took a step, crossing the distance of two formidable powers, appearing in front of the Earth Gang Divine Lord. The Earth Gang Divine Lord's face changed dramatically, disbelief showing on his face. Sword light flashed, sword chi burst forth. With one slash, Guan annihilated the Earth Gang Divine Lord, body and soul, in an instant. The terrifying force even pushed back the Golden Phantom. The Golden Phantom, holding the giant fan, looked at Guan's back, its features changing, clearly startled by Guan's power. "I underestimated you, Sword Venerable. I look forward to meeting you again," Ji Xiaoyu's voice sounded. Immediately after, the Golden Phantom scattered, merging into the primordial Taoist talisman. The primordial Taoist talisman tore through space and quickly disappeared. Guan turned to see the Ji family cultivators retreating. Amid the crowd, Ji Hantian seemed to sense something and looked back, meeting his gaze. At that moment, Ji Hantian felt a mix of shock and guilt. He was shocked at Sword Venerable Fudeo's invincible presence in the 7 stars spirit realm, and guilt-ridden for seemingly disappointing the elder. He had always thought that the righteous path, inscribed on the heavenly repair platform, was left by Sword Venerable Fudao, hoping he could lead the supreme sect onto the righteous path. The fiery aura in the sky surged like tidal waves. A blink of an eye later, Ji Hantian could no longer see Sword Venerable Fudeo's figure. Guan took one step across space, arriving at a vast white jade square where thousands of disciples of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm were meditating, all facing a grand palace ahead. No one noticed Guan's arrival. Guan's gaze shifted to the palace, feeling the presence of another heaven and earth flying immortal hidden within. Chapter 249. If the heavens don't take you, I will. In the palace, the sound of preaching continuously echoed, immersing the cultivators in the plaza, making it difficult for them to extricate themselves. Guan, holding his twin swords, stepped forward. Against the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, he did not intend to reach the level of exterminating everyone. He only wanted to slaughter the high-ranking members to disperse the Seven Stars Spirit Realm on this continent. If he were to annihilate the entire Seven Stars Spirit Realm, the surrounding major forces would undoubtedly become more wary of him, possibly drawing even stronger entities. Guan walked among the disciples of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. With each step, he resisted the preaching sound from the palace. The disciples behind him awakened one by one. Seeing Guan, they were startled, hurriedly got up, took out their magic artifacts and divine weapons, and prepared for battle. Guan continued to walk without looking back or pausing his steps. Who is he? What does he intend to do? I can't see through his cultivation level. We shouldn't act rashly after all. There's a divine lord stationed here. Could he be someone from the Star Sea congregations? No, this seems like the Demon Shadow Divine Skill, a cultivation technique from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion of the Taitsong dynasty. I have seen it before. The one who mastered it fully is the Sword Venerable Fudao residing in the Supreme Sect. Sword Venerable Fudao. These 4 words made the disciples in the plaza tremble with fear. How could they not have heard of Sword Venerable Fudao, who even forced the Cave Master Divine Soul True Lord of the 6 Stars Cave to retreat? It was said that after that battle, the Divine Soul True Lord disappeared and no one knew where he went. There were also speculations within the 7 Stars Spirit Realm that the Divine Soul True Lord was killed by Sword Venerable Fudao. No matter the claim, the strength of Sword Venerable Fudao was something the 7 Stars Spirit Realm dreaded. The disciples in this plaza were either geniuses or nobles of the 7 Stars Spirit Realm. They knew some inside information. For example, startling immortal Lin from the Lin family died at the hands of Sword Venerable Fudao. Instantly, more and more disciples in the plaza woke up. Regardless of their high cultivation levels, none dared to approach Guan, let alone stop him. Before long, Guan arrived in front of the palace steps. Being closer, he could better appreciate the majesty of the palace, exuding a Taoist intent Guan had never felt before. This Taoist intent could make it easier for one to comprehend Taoist sorcery, indicating that the materials of this palace were not simple, and might contain some powerful formation. There was only one person inside the palace, a heaven and earth flying immortal. Stronger by a few degrees than the previous Earth Gang Divine Lord. It had to be known that the strongest beings in the 6 Stars Cave and the 7 Stars Cave were only in the wandering immortal realm. Now 2 heaven and earth flying immortals had emerged, indicating that the 7 Stars Spirit Realm had long been prepared. Fortunately, Guan had not rashly come before. He dared to come now because he was certain that the 7 Stars Spirit Realm did not have a carefree primordial immortal. The Star Sea congregations were unlikely to deceive him. After all, if the 7 Stars Spirit Realm had a carefree primordial immortal, how could they allow the Star Sea congregations to oppress them so? Sword Venerable Fudao. What kind of irreconcilable enmity do you have with my 7 Stars Spirit Realm? An elderly voice echoed from within the palace, resounding in this heaven and earth. Hearing his voice, the agitated disciples in the plaza calmed down one by one. This was a senior from the 5 Stars Cave, renowned overseas, surely capable of subduing Sword Venerable Fudao. Since the 7 Stars Spirit Realm had many minor heaven and earths, and they existed separately without being connected, the battle in the minor heaven and earth where the Ji family resided could not be felt. They were unaware that a heaven and earth flying immortal had already fallen at Guan's hands. They did not know But the heaven and earth flying immortal inside the palace was very clear about it. Raising the demon ancestor, creating evil demons and toying with mortals, do you still wonder if there's a grudge? Gu An's voice rang out, changing the expressions of all the cultivators in the plaza. Although they had vaguely heard of it, it was still hard to accept when Sword Venerable Fudao tore away the disguise of this sin. After all, the Seven Stars spirit realm prided itself as following the righteous path. Boom! The palace doors swung open, a strong wind howled out, blowing the demonic chi on Guan and forcing back all the disciples in the plaza. A figure walked out from the depths of the palace, a man in a feathered robe with a valiant face, a white crane's shadow swirling behind him, his whole being exuding immortal aura. He walked to the steps, looking down at Guan from above. You, covered in demonic chi, have come to seek justice in a holy land. Don't you find it laughable? The feathered robe man asked indifferently. 10,000 miles Divine Lord, heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Third layer 158082/260000/310000. Guan looked at the prompt in front of him, unmoved. He could feel that 10,000 miles Divine Lord was stalling for time. Several heaven and earth flying immortals were rushing over. This was precisely what Guan wanted. Guan responded. Demon is not demon, immortal is not immortal. If the heavens won't judge you, I will. 10,000 miles Divine Lord laughed aloud as if he had heard a grand joke. That demon ancestor is formed from the chi fortune of heaven and earth. It can only be killed, not abolished forever. To suppress it, how many disciples of the Seven Stars spirit realm have guarded here for generations? The evil demons are vile beyond measure. To seal it, how many lives has the Seven Stars spirit realm lost? Sword Venerable Fudao, do you know how many enemies the Seven Stars spirit realm has repelled to protect the environment of this continent? How many disciples have been buried in the ocean? You only see the suffering of the mortals on the continent, but have you considered how much the Seven Stars spirit realm has sacrificed? 10,000 miles Divine Lord spoke vehemently, his words stirring the emotions of all the cultivators in the plaza. Indeed, others might not know, but being disciples of the Seven Stars spirit realm, how could they be unaware of the Seven Stars spirit realm's long-term defense of the continent? Each of them had close relatives or friends who had died in battles with ocean forces and demons. They looked at Guan with expressions full of anger, as if Guan was the sinner. Guan stood in place, quietly watching 10,000 miles Divine Lord. When 10,000 miles Divine Lord finished speaking, he suddenly asked, "The evil demons on the continent have been eliminated by me. Why then, are there other evil demons in your hall?" The plaza fell silent instantly, all eyes fixed on 10,000 miles Divine Lord. 10,000 miles Divine Lord coldly replied, "Nonsense, must I let you enter the hall to check?" Rumble. Rolling thunderclouds swiftly covered the sky, vast auras descended. 10,000 miles Divine Lord visibly relaxed a bit. My Seven Stars spirit realm is the holy land established by the immortal path holy court in the mortal world. How could you, an evil demon, slander it? Laughable. One who dares not reveal his true self, yet dreams of toppling the Seven Stars spirit realm single-handedly? Killing our Divine Lord of the Seven Stars spirit realm. Today we'll see you eradicated without reincarnation. For hundreds of thousands of years, how many beings have been saved by my Seven Stars spirit realm? Do you think you can shake it? Whether one is righteous or demonic, it's not for you to judge. One after another, majestic and imposing voices resounded like thunder, startling the disciples in the plaza. They all looked up, their faces full of shock. Strong lights emerged from the swirling thunderclouds, piercing through the sea of clouds and illuminating the sky and earth. At the same time, snow began to fall over the continent. In the height of summer, snowflakes drifted down from the sky, causing all beings on earth to wonder. In the Third Medicine Valley, the disciples stopped what they were doing and looked up at the snowflakes filling the sky. Yang Jian stood in front of the wooden railing, reaching out to catch a snowflake. It quickly melted, turning not into water, but a wisp of white gas. "This is," Yang Jian frowned, sensing an elusive aura from the snowflake. This aura intrigued him, and he immediately reached out to grab more snowflakes. Yu Yingying, who was playing chess with an Xian, looked up. Snow in summer, what kind of omen is this? I've never seen it before, an Xian muttered. Yu Yingying reached out, catching a snowflake. It turned into a wisp of white gas and dissipated. Her expression changed slightly and she whispered, "Heavenly snowfall, snow turning to gas, this is abnormal. Could it be the legendary sign of an immortal's fall?" An Xian asked curiously, "What is the sign of an immortal's fall?" Yu Yingying replied, "I've heard that when a high Dao level immortal falls, heaven and earth would produce an anomaly, as a testament to their lives' cultivation achievements." An immortal's fall? Is it on this continent or overseas? An Xian asked curiously. Yu Yingying looked up, her eyes complex, and answered, "Probably on this continent." Throughout the Supreme Sect, any cultivator exposed to sunlight was discussing this sudden anomaly in heaven and earth. Yilan also stepped out of her room and into the courtyard. She looked up with furrowed brows. Miles away, Wu Ju was similarly affected, yet he seemed to attain an almost mystical state, as if comprehending something. In the Great Jiang dynasty in the Juhua sect, Jiang Qiong and the ghost mother of ephemera stood on the cliff's edge, reaching out to catch snowflakes. A sign of an immortal's fall. It appears the conflict between the seven-star spirit realm and the Star Sea congregations has reached an irreconcilable point. A high Dao level immortal has fallen, the ghost mother of ephemera said, frowning with worry. Jiang Qiong smiled. The more fiercely they fight, the better it is for us. Despite her words, she felt an inexplicable unease, as if something bad was about to happen. In the seven-star spirit realm, the thunderclouds spread, forming a giant vortex. A golden mirror floated in the vortex, its edges carved with patterns of various divine beasts, the mirror surface a deep blue, surrounded by crimson flames. Immortal Path's supreme treasure, the Seven Stars Mirror. In front of the Seven Stars Mirror, a figure floated. He wore a long purple robe, with two fiery red orbs hovering over his shoulders like suns. Behind him was a crescent moon, from which wisps of spiritual energy emanated, forming colorful clouds around him. He looked down at Guan from above. Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. 7th Layer 18703/4200000/4900000. Guan looked at this man's lifespan with slight satisfaction. In this heaven and earth, a total of 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had appeared. Besides the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, the cultivation levels of the others were all below the 6th layer, except for one who had reached the 5th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. With the appearance of the Seven Stars Mirror, the entire minor heaven and earth was sealed. Creatures outside could not enter, and those inside could not escape. The disciples in the plaza bore unimaginable pressure, falling to their knees and painfully gazing at the sky. The high-standing 6 heaven and earth flying immortals remained indifferent to the disciples' suffering. So did 10,000 Miles Divine Lord in front of the palace doors. He took out a divine weapon, a silver spear about 10 feet long, with a black flag just below the spearhead, depicting a demonic shadow. All 7 heaven and earth flying immortals focused their gazes on Guan. At this moment, Guan seemed to be resisting the entire heaven and earth. Chapter 250. Arrogant Sword. Venerable, do you still have reinforcements? The divine light of the Seven Stars Mirror was so brilliant, illuminating the expressions of all the disciples of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm on the square. At this moment, the disciples of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm also realized that something was wrong. The high and mighty heaven and earth flying immortals seemed to be preparing to abandon them. For a while, cries, pleas for mercy, sobs, and curses kept ringing out. But Guan, who was being stared at by the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals, was looking at the 2 treasure swords in his hand. The Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning looked down at Guan and asked, "Do you have anything else to say?" Sword. Venerable Fudeo's origins were mysterious, and he could even slay heaven and earth flying immortals, so the Realm Master couldn't help but feel some dread. He feared that there might be even more terrifying beings standing behind Sword. Venerable Fudao, So he didn't act immediately. If he had no backing, he would not let Sword Venerable Fudao go today. Guan raised his head, looked up at the 6 heaven and earth flying immortals in the sky, and asked, "Are your people all here, or do you still have reinforcements?" As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals all changed dramatically. Arrogant. They had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and had never seen such an arrogant person. With the immortal path supreme treasure overhead and 7 heaven and earth flying immortals working together, could he dare to be so arrogant? The realm master of heavenly meaning thought of many possibilities in an instant. He even thought that Sword Venerable Fudao might be at a higher realm than the heaven and earth flying immortals, but then he dismissed the idea, thinking how could such an ethereal existence be hiding in a small corner of this continent? Shouldn't he go to outer heaven to seek the opportunity for the great Tao? Feeling the power of the 7 stars mirror, the realm master of heavenly meaning's eyes flashed with fierceness. Even if someone surpassed the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, and killed so many great cultivators of the 7 stars spirit realm, this matter could not be let go. He immediately raised his hand. The 7 stars mirror, as high as 10,000 feet, trembled violently, bursting out with even more terrifying pressure. The voices of all the disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm on the square came to an abrupt end, and they desperately felt their skin ulcerate and their flesh dissolve. At this moment, a vast power enveloped them, removing the torture they were enduring. They couldn't help but widen their eyes, looking subconsciously for the source of this power, and their gaze fell on Guan. "Have you recognized it now? Is this the Holy Land you think it is?" Guan's voice rang out, making the faces of the disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm look complicated. They were all the talented disciples of the 6 stars cave and 7 stars cave, believing they had a great role in bearing the future of the 7 stars spirit realm. Yet now, they were being abandoned by the 7 stars spirit realm without any fault of their own. How could they accept this? The 10,000 miles divine lord also flew under the 7 stars mirror. The 7 immortals worked together, their bodies bursting into light, resembling the Big Dipper, suspended under the 7 stars mirror. Their mana merged with the aura of the 7 stars mirror, making the pressure of the 7 stars mirror even more formidable. Guan looked up at them, feeling emotional. So this was the power of the immortal path supreme treasure? He felt that the power displayed by the 7 stars mirror at this moment had already surpassed that of the heaven and earth flying immortals. Even a great cultivator of the first 3 layers of the carefree primordial immortal realm would find it difficult to resist. Of course, even if a carefree primordial immortal couldn't match it, escaping would still be easy. Guan suddenly had a new idea. He asked aloud, "Gentlemen, if I shatter this dark sky, can you bring brightness to this land?" Upon hearing this, the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals frowned. The disciples of the 7 star spirit realm on the square were all stunned. Before they could react, Guan slashed his sword. His right hand held the heavenly residence sword. His wrist rotated, with the tiger's mouth facing downwards, and the blade slashed upwards. His posture was so casual. This sword seemed to have no powerful momentum. Yet as the sword slashed the sky, flames and air blasts dissipated. The 7 heaven and earth flying immortals in front of the 7 stars mirror could not evade, and were directly turned to ashes. Boom! The 7 stars mirror was struck by sword chi, shaking violently. The thunderclouds above were directly cleaved, and sunlight poured down. The tens of thousands of geniuses of the 7 stars spirit realm on the square were all dumbfounded, unable to believe their eyes. They had already felt the power of the realm master of heavenly meaning, and the 7 stars mirror. That was a power they couldn't even imagine or resist. Even though Sword Venerable Fudao's mana protected them, they still thought a fierce battle would occur. But that wasn't the case. One sword to annihilate. Crushing and devastating. It seemed as if they hadn't killed the strongest of the 7 star spirit realm, but rather the cloud waves in the sky. The storm swept across the world, and the fierce wind crashed through the spirit mist enveloping the mountains and rivers. One after another, the mountain forests appeared, pressed by the violent gale like turbulent waves, spectacular beyond compare. Only the 7 stars mirror remained in the sky. The 10,000-foot-high 7 stars mirror quickly withdrew its aura. The mirror body trembled for a while, and then began to fall. You have successfully taken 25,709 years of life from the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, 7th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 10,041 years of life from the 10,000 miles Divine Lord, 3rd layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 18,116 years of life from the Divine Lord Shaoling, 5th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. A total of 6 messages appeared in front of Guan, making Guan secretly puzzled. Why was one person missing? Guan remembered that person, named Thousand-Faced Divine Lord, with a cultivation level of the 4th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. He clearly felt that the 7 Heaven and Earth Flying Immortals all turned to ashes, and it was impossible for anyone to escape. Could it be that this person had other avatars? If so, why could he still sense their lifespan? Guan's divine sense quickly enveloped the continent, and kept expanding but couldn't find any trace of the Thousand-Faced Divine Lord. This opened his eyes. The Thousand-Faced Divine Lord was quite a character, able to escape from his hands, even more capable than the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning at the 7th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. Guan suddenly gained more than 80,000 years of life. Previously, when he killed the cultivators of the Luo family, he had also gained more than 50,000 years of life. This time he gained nearly 130,000 years of life, which was quite good, saving him months of effort. The most important thing was to eliminate potential threats. Guan raised his hand, storing the now shrunken 7 stars mirror in his hand. He probed it with his divine sense, overbearingly destroying layers of restrictions, quickly finding the immortal spirit, and forcibly making it acknowledge him as its master. The storm in the world was still surging. The cultivators on the square looked up, remaining silent for a while before accepting the fact that they had survived. Thump! A cultivator suddenly knelt down, facing Guan, and began to kowtow. With someone taking the lead, others followed suit and kowtowed. Over 10,000 people bowed to Guan, making a rather magnificent scene. It is up to you to change the 7 stars spirit realm on this land. If it continues to be like before, named as a holy land but practicing evil, I will return. Then it won't be just the high-ranking members who will die. Guan's voice rang out, and he slashed towards the palace with the Qinghong sword in his left hand. Boom! A sword chi swept out, forcefully splitting the palace into 2, immediately turning it into ashes. Such overwhelming power at his fingertips made the kneeling cultivators tremble in fear, and at the same time, they felt a fervent admiration for Guan's sword. Venerable Fudao was not only powerful but also saved them. How could they harbor resentment? If they were to hate anyone, it would be those high-ranking members who wanted to kill them. At this moment, they all widened their eyes. As the palace turned to ashes, demons flew out. Their aura was all that of evil demons, with male, female, and even demon forms. They wailed and were ultimately obliterated by the wind. Exterminating a group of evil demons did not bring Guan any lifespan, but it gave the geniuses of the 7 stars spirit realm a tremendous mental shock. How could the Holy Land nurture so many evil demons? When they came back to their senses, Guan's figure was already gone. A teleportation array appeared in the distant sky, and countless cultivators surged in. The genius disciples on the square were still in shock, recalling everything that had happened earlier, feeling like they were in a dream. In a dim palace, a woman in a purple dress watched as the 6 oil lamps at the highest point of the wall went out simultaneously. Her eyebrows immediately furrowed. The young ghost boy on her shoulder widened his eyes and exclaimed in shock. Have the realm masters fallen? How is that possible? The highest oil lamps represented the pinnacle of power in the 7 stars spirit realm. The oil lamp of the realm master of heavenly meaning was particularly large, like a moon surrounded by stars. At this moment, a figure appeared out of thin air beside the woman in the purple dress. As soon as this person appeared, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. He immediately sat down to cultivate energy, suppressing the chaotic chi and blood in his body. The woman in the purple dress turned to look at him, her eyebrows furrowing even more tightly. Thousand-faced Divine Lord, what on earth happened? Why did the realm masters all fall? The woman in the purple dress asked. The person cultivating energy was none other than the thousand-faced Divine Lord who had escaped from Guan's hands. He was wearing a blue robe, with long hair draped over his shoulders, and his face was as delicate as a woman's. At this moment his complexion was extremely pale, and his lips were still trembling. The Six Stars Cave was attacked, and the realm masters thought the Star Sea congregations were attacking, so they went to support. We encountered Sword Venerable Fudao from the continent. He annihilated us with a single sword. The power of the Seven Stars Mirror couldn't withstand his sword chi. The Seven Stars Mirror has now fallen into his hands, the thousand-faced Divine Lord said tremulously. He opened his eyes, filled with despair, and said, he was too strong. The heaven and earth flying immortals were like dust before him. If I hadn't detected something wrong and used my divine skills to switch my main soul and avatar, I would have died too. Even so, the fall of my avatar brought me enormous backlash, and I will need to recover for the next 10,000 years. Thinking about Sword Venerable Fudao's figure, his body couldn't help but tremble. He then looked at the woman in the purple dress and said, Second Cave Master, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm is finished. The seven heaven and earth flying immortals are dead, leaving only you and me. With the Seven Stars Mirror in Sword Venerable Fudao's hands, we are powerless to resist the Star Sea congregations. We need to make plans early. The woman in the purple dress was the second cave master of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. After listening to the thousand-faced Divine Lord, she fell into silence. Recently, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm had been repeatedly suppressed by the Star Sea congregations. She had considered the possibility of their demise, but didn't expect it to come so quickly. In just one day, 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had fallen. Heaven and earth flying immortals were the foundation of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Plans. What plans can we have? Moreover, the gate to the divine exotic realm has already opened. Once the catastrophe descends, entangled by karma, escaping to outer heaven would be useless. The second cave master said, her gaze eerie, as if thinking about something. The thousand-faced Divine Lord used his power to suppress his injuries and said, I don't care. I must leave the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. I have cultivated for tens of thousands of years, and don't want my path to end abruptly. If there is something I can do to help in the future, feel free to ask. But I do not want to fight Sword Venerable Fudao again. He stood up, bowing to the second cave master, then disappeared from the spot. In the dim great hall, only the second cave master and the young ghost boy on her shoulder were left. The flickering candlelight made their shadows look like ferocious demons. Chapter 251. The world changes drastically. A huge trouble in the forest. Guan sat in meditation under a tree, leaning against the trunk, playing with the Seven Stars Mirror. The Seven Stars Mirror, which emitted an aura rivaling that of a carefree primordial immortal, became small and exquisite in his hands, looking nothing like an immortal path's supreme treasure. Snowflakes fell through the gaps in the leaves, landing on him and melting into vapor. 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had suddenly fallen, causing the heavens and the earth to mourn, and snowflakes continued to fall. While holding the Seven Stars Mirror, Guan also used his divine sense to trace the primordial Taoist talisman. He was very curious about Ji Xiaoyu's ancestry and divine skills. When the primordial Taoist talisman fled, he specifically used his divine sense to follow it. Although the primordial Taoist talisman crossed the rules of heaven and earth, hiding in places unreachable by living beings, he could still track it. He noticed that the primordial Taoist talisman did not leave the continent, but returned to the Ji family. However, it was not to the branch family where Ji Xiaoyu was born, but to a branch family located in the Great Jiang dynasty. Guan thought of Ji Xiaoyu's decisive appearance earlier, and felt a little sentimental. He did not expect Ji Xiaoyu to go all out directly. That mysterious shadow should be her past life. Ji Xiaoyu seemed to be practicing a method similar to the primordial reincarnation skill. The difference was that while the primordial reincarnation skill accumulated chi fortune and talent through reincarnation, Ji Xiaoyu already possessed great power herself, and she could even summon this power, crossing ages and reincarnations. What would Ji Xiaoyu be like at her peak? He did not know. He just felt it was a pity for Ji Xiaoyu to fall in this life. Third miss, I hope you have good fortune in your next life and are no longer coerced by your family, Guan thought. Seeing that the primordial Taoist talisman still remained in the Ji family, he was very puzzled about the relationship between Ji Xiaoyu and the Ji family. If it was only a relationship in this life, why not reincarnate into a different family? Perhaps he could ask the soul of the branch family, Ji Zhan. But after thinking about it, he decided against it. That was Ji Xiaoyu and the Ji family's destiny. Why should he interfere, and what reason did he have to investigate? Guan treated everyone around him like this, not prying into their pasts, but cherishing their current companionship. After this battle, he looked forward to meeting Ji Xiaoyu again in the future. By then, would Ji Xiaoyu be another person, or still the third miss of this life? The mirror of the 7 stars mirror reflected Gu An's handsome face. His eyes seemed to cross the vast ocean of time, reaching the other side of destiny. Guan focused on the 7 stars mirror. This was a truly well-preserved immortal path supreme treasure. Even stronger than divine exotic city. Even after being attacked by his mana, the 7 stars mirror did not develop a single crack. Instinct told him that the 7 stars mirror could become even stronger. It was just that the realm master of heavenly meaning and others could only unleash it to that level. He connected his mind with the 7 stars immortal spirit. Immediately, the 7 stars mirror began to change, its edges transforming from the shape of a divine beast to floral patterns, and its overall color turned dim. At first glance, it was just an ancient and plain mirror, nothing resembling a supreme treasure. He revealed a satisfied smile, then placed the 7 stars mirror into his bosom. He stood up, looking at the still falling heavy snow, but feeling that the sky had become brighter than before. It's time to go home. The summer snowfall lasted for 7 days. When the heavenly phenomena dissipated, news about the 7 stars spirit realm had not yet spread, but the supreme sect had already been alarmed. To be precise, the entire immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties was sending people to investigate, and there were even continuous streams of overseas cultivators arriving, heading for the 7 stars spirit realm. But this time, no great cultivator dared to fly over the supreme sect. A great storm was brewing. After Guan returned to the supreme sect, he acted as if nothing had happened, occasionally checking the primordial Taoist talisman to see if Ji Xiaoyu had reincarnated. Life remained leisurely, but Guan felt more relaxed than before. At least the 7 stars spirit realm was no more. That's right, it was going to be gone. Gu An's divine sense surveyed the ocean, seeing the cultivators from the Star Sea congregations, chasing down the 7 star spirit realm cultivators everywhere. It wasn't just the Star Sea congregations. Other major forces were also following to devour the 7 star spirit realm's territory and chi fortune, showing him the scene of survival of the fittest. One day, someone came to visit Guan. It was none other than the 9-fingered Divine Lord, who served as a guest elder of the Supreme Sect. Although this man was of the 2nd level of the wandering immortal realm, his maximum lifespan reached 800,000 years, and his current lifespan was 180,000 years. He suspected the 9-fingered Divine Lord had once fallen from a higher realm. When the 9-fingered Divine Lord first joined the Supreme Sect, it was Guan who had shown him around, leading to their friendship. Chu Jingfeng was still following him for training. Under the tree, Guan and the 9-fingered Divine Lord sat face to face, with an Xian helping to pour tea. The 9-fingered Divine Lord smiled and nodded at an Xian, then chatted with Guan, praising him for managing the Medicine Valley in an orderly manner. Since meeting Guan, his heart had become calm. Overseas, no matter where he went, the air was filled with scheming and power struggles, but Gu An's Medicine Valley had a sense of tranquility, and he felt this atmosphere was related to Guan himself. He had also inquired about Guan from Chu Jingfeng, and Chu Jingfeng's evaluation of Guan was the same as his own. He definitely wouldn't imagine that I have the cultivation level of the second level of the wandering immortal realm. Also, it's probable he hasn't heard of the term wandering immortal in this short life. The nine-fingered divine lord held the tea bowl, looking at Guan with a smile. Guan raised his bowl as well and smiled back at him. If this old fellow knew I was at the ninth layer of the carefree primordial immortal, could he remain this calm? Guan thought, finding it very amusing. The nine-fingered divine lord suddenly said, "Lately the world has been unstable, you need to be careful. Try to stay out of the valley as much as possible." Hearing this, Guan frowned and asked, "Senior, has something major happened?" The nine-fingered divine lord hesitated for a moment, then softly said, "To be honest, the holy land of this continent, the seven-star spirit realm, is about to collapse. This will inevitably affect the balance of both the continent and the ocean. Without the pressure of the seven-star spirit realm, it's inevitable that more great cultivators will invade this continent." Guan asked in surprise, "How could that be possible? That's a holy land." The disadvantages of destroying the seven-star spirit realm hadn't escaped Guan's consideration. But there were pros and cons to everything. Even if the seven-star spirit realm wasn't destroyed, who knew what calamity it planned next? If it weren't for him, the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties and the beings of the continent would have long perished in the demon calamity. Guan had a clear conscience. Considering his own safety, he only thought about being a savior. He never shouldered the world's safety. He was first a man, then an immortal. It's indeed incredible. That was a colossus standing for hundreds of thousands of years. I don't know who did it. The nine-fingered divine lord sighed. Guan asked, "Since the world is about to fall into chaos, why doesn't Senior stay in the Supreme Sect? The ocean is surely more dangerous than the continent, isn't it?" He hoped to fully bring the nine-fingered divine lord into the Supreme Sect's camp, so he wouldn't have to deal with some minor threats. Truth be told, killing didn't have that much appeal to him, compared to the longevity offered by medicinal herbs. The nine-fingered divine lord nodded and said, "I'm planning to stay for a while, because I have a suspicion in my mind." "What suspicion?" "Haha, that I cannot tell you, lest you get entangled in karma." "Really? Then please don't say it. Though I'm unaware of your realm, your world is definitely not one I can tread." "Haha." Hearing Guan's words, the nine-fingered divine lord laughed heartily. Throughout his life, he had met many people, but few were as calm and open-minded as Guan. Although he hadn't revealed his true cultivation level, even his superficial level was enough to make most core formation realm cultivators go out of their way to please him. Guan was different. Their friendship was one of a gentleman's, without any interests involved, making him feel very comfortable. Guan didn't listen to him much. From time to time he would talk about amusing things in his valley. Though plain, they had a unique flavor to the nine-fingered divine lord. Having stood atop the clouds for so long, occasionally looking at the lives of mortals was quite nice. Later, Guan invited the nine-fingered divine lord to play a game of Go. After explaining the rules just once, the nine-fingered divine lord understood. At first, the nine-fingered divine lord's moves were messy, but after about 40 moves he started to develop his own strategy. From blind defense to strategic preparation, he improved rapidly. Guan became interested and started playing seriously. In the end he won. The defeated nine-fingered divine lord was not angry. Instead he looked at the board with interest, savoring Guan's strategies. "Interesting, let's play again," the nine-fingered divine lord said, looking up. Guan then called out to Xiaochuan, who was passing by, asking him to play, stating that Xiaochuan was better than him, making Xiaochuan raise his chin. The nine-fingered divine lord didn't care who his opponent was as long as they knew how to play. Thus, the two began to battle on the Go board, attracting other disciples to watch the excitement. Yang Jian stood by Guan watching the game. He wasn't interested in Go. He preferred Chinese chess with its more straightforward and intense battles. However, he could sense the nine-fingered divine lord's profound aura, indicating that this person was very powerful, prompting him to watch the excitement. They played until dusk, and Xiaochuan was dazed. The nine-fingered divine lord stood up contentedly, looked at Guan, and said, Alright, I need to go to the main city of the sect. I'll come back later for another game. I think this go contains the true meaning of Tao. Good game. His gaze fell involuntarily on Yang Jian. Oh, the nine-fingered divine lord's eyes changed immediately. Although Yang Jian had concealed his cultivation, the nine-fingered divine lord could tell at a glance that Yang Jian's physique was special. Guan quickly said, "You already took away Chu Jingfeng. Don't even think about taking my disciple. He is with me for life." The surrounding disciples looked at Yang Jian with complex expressions. Could Yang Jian really be a genius? Yang Jian echoed, "That's right. I will serve my master for life and will never acknowledge another master." Next to him, an Xian showed a look of envy, thinking of her own master in her youth. If she had extraordinary talent, would her master have been willing to keep her by his side? But then she let it go, thinking her senior and how had exceptional talent but still couldn't stay with the master. The nine-fingered divine lord gave Yang Jian a deep look, then turned his gaze to Guan and said, "Your disciple is indeed extraordinary. Make sure he stays in the medicine valley and doesn't descend the mountain. Otherwise, he might cause you trouble." After speaking, the nine-fingered divine lord leaped into the air, like a white crane flying toward the horizon. His words made the surrounding disciples look at Yang Jian with even more curiosity, but Yang Jian remained calm and indifferent. "'Cause my master trouble? Provoking my master, that would be the real trouble." However, this time, disciples of the law enforcement hall of the Supreme Sect were stationed at the edges of the platform, temporarily forbidding anyone from stepping on it, with even Xie being driven off. Guan saw circles of people surrounding the heaven-cutting axe, including Ji Hantian and Gu Zong, with Zhuo Yijian, the guardian of the heaven-cutting axe, forced to the back, looking dissatisfied. He sensed several familiar auras that he had encountered in the seven-star spirit realm. They were the geniuses he had saved from the seven-star spirit realm, now kneeling before the heaven-cutting axe, accompanied by loose immortals who were explaining the transformation of the seven-star spirit realm. Their sincerity was apparent. The seven-star spirit realm had a profound heritage. Destroying the higher echelons was not enough to completely dissolve it, but if the remaining members could rebuild a new seven-star spirit realm for the benefit of all beings, it would be a good thing. Gu An's gaze involuntarily turned to Xie. The son of the demon emperor had now fully integrated into the Supreme Sect, and even became a high-ranking member. Sensing his gaze, Xie glanced back at him, nodding to acknowledge him. Guan nodded in return, feeling somewhat nostalgic, as the two had grown distant over time. He wasn't angry or sad. Some people naturally drifted apart over time, not always from disdain, but simply because they had no common topics after a long period without contact. He did not approach further and instead walked away. Besides Xie, he had many friends in Outer Gate City. Though most were drinking buddies who could chat, drink, and enjoy an afternoon together were indeed friends. Guan wanted to hear their praises for Sword Venerable Fudao. It wasn't just the Supreme Sect. All sects under heaven were fervently spreading the news. Sword Venerable Fudao single-handedly ventured into the holy land of the seven-star spirit realm, slaying immortals within, a feat that was thrilling and awe-inspiring. After this battle, no one dared to question Sword Venerable Fudao anymore. People marveled at his strength, overshadowing discussions of the seven-star spirit realm's sins. Most cultivators, upon hearing about the seven-star spirit realm's crimes, at most cursed a few times without feeling disillusioned, as they were accustomed to such events. It was merely that the spirit realm's sins were grander. But Sword Venerable Fudao was different. Each of his actions shook the cultivators. Every time they thought they had overestimated him, he would achieve another earth-shattering feat sweeping through a holy land alone. How exaggerated was that? Immortal cultivation was not like martial arts. The higher the realm, the harder it was to take on many opponents at the same level. The seven-star spirit realm, a holy land hiding immortals, could be swept through by one person. The immortal king crown and the short flute capable of summoning the 9 nether 13 evil immediately flew out, landing in his hand. He put the short flute into his storage bag and held the immortal king crown with both hands. Under the sunlight, the dark gold immortal king crown shimmered, the grooves on it giving it an ominous appearance. Guan immediately sent his divine sense into the immortal king crown. Boom! A powerful aura burst forth, ruffling Guan's robes and stirring waves on the lake. It was quite a spectacle. Just as expected, the internal restrictions of the immortal king crown were similar to those of the 7 stars mirror, but not as complete. Many restrictions were still recovering, indicating that it was a damaged immortal path supreme treasure, more damaged than the divine exotic city, lacking even the formation of a new immortal spirit. While probing the restrictions, Guan also learned about the immortal king crown. Besides containing immense power, the immortal king crown could also devour chi blood, accelerating its recovery. The evil emperor was drained of chi blood by the immortal king crown, leaving only his soul. The evil emperor was only at the Mahayana realm, unable to withstand the immortal king crown, but now, Guan at the 9th layer of carefree primordial immortal could easily endure it. Guan began to refine the crown's master recognition restrictions, making it his own dharma treasure. The process was complex, but having dealt with the divine exotic city and the 7 stars mirror, it was no longer difficult for Guan. An hour later, Guan successfully made the immortal king crown recognize him as its master. He removed the hairband from his head and wore the immortal king crown, tying his hair beneath it. With a thought, the crown transformed from an emperor's crown to a Taoist's crown. Despite having many grooves, its reduced size made it less eerie, enhancing his ethereal aura. Guan took out the 7 stars mirror and began to groom his hair. The more he looked, the more satisfied he felt. As expected, clothes do make the man, and adornments enhance even a Buddha's appearance. Even with his outstanding looks, fine decorations added to his charm. In the future, pairing it with exquisite robes will enhance my charisma, Guan thought to himself. After all, he was a core formation realm cultivator. Looking good did no harm. Although he aimed to cultivate discreetly, there was no need to live too restrained. If anyone targeted him for his refined appearance and refused to reason, Guan could only reason with them from a 9th layer carefree primordial immortal's perspective. He wandered by the lakeside, admiring the North Sea scenery until dusk. At dusk, a cultivator flew from the horizon, landing beside him and asked, "Taoist friend, may I ask which sect you are from?" Guan cast a lifespan detection at the other person. Guoguhong, Core Formation Realm 8th Layer 373/500/950, a very ordinary cultivator. However, 130 years ago, such a person would have been a significant figure to Guan. Guan replied, "I am from the ancient sky sect. What does Taoist friend require?" Guoguhong, clad in gray, wearing a hat and carrying a long box, looked travel-worn. He glanced at the lake and said, "I heard that the North Sea has shown anomalies lately, with a supreme treasure about to emerge. I wonder if Taoist friend has heard anything about it." Just as Guan was about to respond, Guoguhong suddenly raised his hand, forming a claw with his right hand, aiming at Guan's heart. Chapter 253. The same person, Guoguhong, developed animosity towards you and harbored killing intent. Do you wish to perform lifespan detection on him? Seeing Guoguhong make a move against him, Guan only wanted to laugh. This fellow was truly vicious, striking as soon as the thought of killing arose, indicating that Guoguhong frequently engaged in such actions. Unfortunately, this time he chose the wrong opponent. Boom! As Guoguhong's claw touched Guan's chest, a force exploded, causing dust and stones to fly under Guan's feet and stirring up ripples on the lake, while Guoguhong instantly turned to ashes. Guan raised his hand, brushed his temples, and continued forward, dispersing the ashes that had been Guoguhong with a step. The prompt to seize lifespan was directly ignored by him, because the lifespan was too short. The North Sea shimmered with the light of a setting sun, and a large fish leaped at the end of the lake, resembling a crescent moon in midair. The sun set and the moon rose. 2 days later, Guan, in the form of a mountain god, arrived at the mountain god temple. The small figure jumped down from the eaves, and Sage Xian Miao, upon hearing the movement, opened his eyes. Seeing it was Guan, he quickly stood up and saluted. "How is the cultivation of medicinal herbs going? I need more herbs for my alchemy." Guan landed on the ground and walked towards the courtyard gate, asking. Sage Xian Miao stood behind him, like a mountain, but the posture was very respectful. "Not bad. But I wonder how much you need," Sage Xian Miao replied. Then they left the mountain god temple and began to gather medicinal herbs. During this time, Sage Xian Miao narrated the events that had occurred recently, even mentioning who had passed by the mountain god temple. He indeed did not lie. As the carefree primordial immortal, Guan could see the past events here, and Sage Xian Miao did not hide anything. Guan was not interested in the matters he talked about, but he was satisfied with his attitude. Having guarded this place for decades, Sage Xian Miao's attitude remained devout, and Guan felt it necessary to reward him. After Guan finished gathering herbal materials, the two arrived at an open space. He still left half of the herbs for Sage Xian Miao. Sage Xian Miao wanted to discuss Sword Venerable Fudao with the mountain god, but he did not know how to start, so he remained silent for a moment. "You have been diligent over the years. I am very pleased. Would you like to learn a sword technique?" Guan stood on a rock, looked at Sage Xian Miao, and asked with a smile. Upon hearing this, Sage Xian Miao was stupefied for a moment and instinctively replied, "Of course I would." Guan raised his hand and pointed his index finger at him remotely. In an instant, Sage Xian Miao fell into a daze. He did not know how much time passed. Sage Xian Miao gradually woke up. When he opened his eyes, he no longer saw the mountain god's figure. The sunset cast dappled shadows of leaves on his face in the forest. Vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. Sage Xian Miao was shocked. Could such a profound sword technique exist in the world? Moreover, why did this sword technique seem somewhat similar to his Li family's sword technique? However, he had been cultivating at 3 Pure Ones Mountain since childhood. Although he was related to the Taitsong imperial family by blood, he had not delved into the Li family's heritage. The mountain god also knows the sword Dao. I wonder how his swordsmanship compares to Sword Venerable Fudao's. Sage Xian Miao couldn't help but think. After hearing about Sword Venerable Fudao's prowess, he always speculated about Sword Venerable Fudao's cultivation level unconsciously. He had to admit that Sword Venerable Fudao's personal charm was indeed compelling, making his heart yearn. Remorseful. How could I be disloyal to the mountain god? Sage Xian Miao struggled to suppress his inner turmoil. But another thought arose within him, a thought even he could hardly believe. Could the mountain god and Sword Venerable Fudao be the same person? Before the overseas cultivators invaded, how could there have been 2 super existences above the 7 stars spirit realm simultaneously on the continent? The news of Sword Venerable Fudao vanquishing the immortals of the 7 stars spirit realm continued to spread. In the following days, the Supreme Sect and the 7 stars spirit realm announced their friendship, pledging to protect the people of the mainland together henceforth, setting an example for the righteous path, which established the Supreme Sect as the foremost sect in the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. This event greatly enhanced the Supreme Sect's influence, attracting an increasing number of people to join. The autumn wind blew through the Supreme Sect yet failed to bring desolation there. In the mountains and forests, Guan sat on the back of the blood prison Great Saint, turning his head to look at the group of young boys and girls that had just brushed past them, feeling nostalgic. This group of youngsters was led by 2 adult men, one a village chief and the other a teacher, on their way to the Supreme Sect to seek the immortal path. Such a scene was rare, especially in the mountains between Mystic Valley and Tianya Valley. Guan looked forward again, asked casually, "What do you think of the Supreme Sect nowadays?" The blood prison Great Saint thought for a while, then said, "Pretty good. It seems to be improving, and it indeed qualifies as the righteous path. Whether it be Medicine Valley or the Outer Gate City, the atmosphere is great." He knew that the Supreme Sect's current prosperity was all due to the one on his back. If the Supreme Sect ever displeased Guan, Today's glory could turn into an illusion at any moment. Having been a steed for a long time, the Blood Prison Great Saint developed some feelings for the Supreme Sect. Although there were some unsavory characters in Medicine Valley, most were not bad overall. Compared to the lower realm sect he came from, the Supreme Sect was more harmonious. Apart from not being strong enough, it matched his ideal place for immortals. He could also feel the Supreme Sect's rising fortune lately, and believed that in 1,000 years, its strength would be immeasurable, qualifying as the righteous path is good enough, Guan said with a soft laugh. One man and one ox walked through the mountains, gradually disappearing into the depths of the forest. An ancient hour later, Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint leisurely into Tianya Valley. He sensed the presence of others in the valley. Li Xiandao had arrived. Guan remained unhurried, leisurely progressing forward. Li Xiandao was in a courtyard drinking tea, with a young boy practicing swordsmanship behind him. The boy seemed to be only 7 or 8, yet his sword movements were fluid and very nimble. Luo Hun stood nearby, his eyes fixed on the boy with the sword, worried he might hurt himself. When Li Xiandao saw Guan from afar, a smile appeared on his face. This kid has become quite ostentatious, but he knows how to enjoy life, Li Xiandao said with amused disbelief. Guan rode a majestic demon pet, wearing a luxurious and exquisite blue robe with an extravagant dark gold crown that made him look very much like an immortal lord of the mortal world. LV Xian, who was meditating at the mountain peak, also saw Guan and was dazzled by his attire. For some reason, there was an aura about Guan that made him uneasy, an instinctual unease he couldn't quite explain. Seeing Li Zuando's gaze, Guan patted the bull's back, making Blood Prison Great Saint quicken its pace. Soon Blood Prison Great Saint reached the courtyard. Guan dismounted and quickly walked into the yard. Uncle, long time no see. Guan raised his hand in a salute. Out of habit, he cast a lifespan detection on the young boy. Li Lingtian, Energy Cultivation Realm 4th Layer 8/110/8999. A lifespan limit of 8,999 years? That was something. Guan was curious, but his face remained calm. Indeed, it's been a long time. I've been here for 2 days, waiting specifically to see you before I leave, Li Xiandao said with a laugh. Nowadays he was in high spirits. The 3 dynasties' contention continued, but everyone could feel the Taizong dynasty's dominance. In the coming years, Li Xiandao was likely to unify the land, a feat no one had accomplished for thousands of years. Li Zuando's cultivation level also advanced rapidly, nearing the 9th layer of the unification realm. This guy could catch up with LV Baitian within a century. The two started to chat. Guan talked about his Medicine Valley in response to Li Zuando's concern, mentioning trivial matters, which Li Xiandao listened to intently. Aside from Gu An's relationship with Li Ye, Li Xiandao was very satisfied with how Guan managed Tianya Valley over the years. After chatting for a while, Li Xiandao started to tease Guan about his current appearance, which was vastly different from before. One must enjoy life when it's going well. Unlike you and senior brother Li, who can stir the world's affairs, I can also live a glamorous life in my small world, can't I? Guan laughed, touching the immortal king crown on his head as he spoke. Li Xiandao laughed. It seems your crown lacks gems. Need my help? Or shall I send you a better one? A better one? I doubt you can afford it. Guan shook his head to decline courteously, and Li Xiandao did not insist. He waved to Li Lingtian, who immediately ran over, curiously watching Guan looking at his small face. Guan couldn't help but think of 15-year-old Li Ye. Their brows and eyes were somewhat similar. This is senior brother Gu, who has the best relationship with your brother Li Ye, Li Xiandao introduced to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian immediately saluted Guan in a very mature and adorable manner. Guan was about to think of what to give as a meeting gift when Li Lingtian asked, Senior brother Gu, I heard you wrote Journey to the West. Have you met Sun Wukong? Guan was stunned, glancing at Luo Hun, who looked away. Li Xiandao kept his smile, obviously knowing this all along. It reminded him of the time he had asked Guan about investiture of the gods. Guan suddenly thought, Had Li Xiandao known he was Pan and all along and tried to probe him intentionally? But that no longer mattered. Yes, in my dream. In reality, I accepted an apprentice named Yang Jian. Guan replied, patting Li Lingxian's head with a smile. True Lord Erlang Yang Jian? Is he powerful? Can I spar with him? Li Lingtian became excited, clenching his little fists. Guan laughed. Of course, but you'll have to grow up first. Li Lingtian nodded obediently, then like a little adult said, Senior brother Gu, you must ensure your apprentice trains hard. My uncle says I have the best life grid in the world, and I fear your apprentice might not be a match for me. Li Xiandao gave him a stern look. Your father always taught you to be modest. Li Lingtian complained. Uncle said so, and mother said everything in this world was created for me, so I can be confident. Li Zuando's face turned visibly displeased. Guan found it amusing and said, All right, senior brother Gu will make sure he trains hard. Promise me you'll train well and not fight with others before sparring with my apprentice. Can you do that? You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.